Chapter 884. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. They did not expect Meng Chong to call out Tianyun first. Lu Ming was also stunned. He did not expect to be the first to fight. However, it did not matter to him. It did not matter to him who fought first. In a flash, Lu Ming rushed to the fighting ring. Rising Sun. Then, Meng Chong called out another name. The crowd fell silent and then they all smiled strangely. Meng Chong had deliberately called out Lu Ming to fight against Rising Sun first. Lu Ming's lips curled into a smile. This supreme martial artist Meng Chong was really interesting. In the crowd, Rising Sun's eyes flashed. He stepped into the void and walked to the fighting ring. Tianyun, although you passed the 36th level of the 10,000 formation pagoda, I guess you passed it by relying on your martial Dao, right? Can you pass it by relying on your inscription Dao? Rising Sun stared coldly at Lu Ming and said coldly. Around the white jade square, some people's eyes flickered. I think Rising Sun's words make sense. That's right. No one in the 10,000 formation pagoda saw how Tianyun passed the level. Maybe he passed it by relying on his martial Dao. His martial Dao is really terrifying. Yes, martial Dao can also pass the level. Why didn't I think of it before? Maybe it's true. Then it's not that great that he passed the 36th level. After all, his martial Dao is really powerful. If the other 13 Zongzi candidates were to challenge the intermediate level of the 10,000 formation pagoda, they could also pass it quickly. The discussion grew louder and louder. Many people had doubtful looks in their eyes. They all thought that Lu Ming passed the 36th level of the 10,000 formation pagoda by relying on his martial Dao. Just watch. No matter what, in the third round of the duel, one cannot use martial Dao. They can only rely on their inscription Dao. In front of everyone, we will soon know whether Tianyun's inscription Dao is strong or not. That's right. Just watch. Some people were more rational and did not rush to come to a conclusion. On the fighting ring, the Rising Sun smiled proudly when he saw that his words had aroused everyone's suspicions and denied all of Lu Ming's achievements. Tianyun, let's fight purely in the Dao of inscription. I'll let you know that it was your mistake to beat me up last time, and I'll return it to you tenfold. Rising Sun gritted his teeth. During this entire process, Lu Ming's expression remained calm and carefree, as if he didn't care at all. Are you done with your nonsense? If you're done with your nonsense, let's begin. The others still have to compete. Lu Ming said faintly. Based on his tone, it was as if he didn't care about the Rising Sun at all. Since you're looking for a beating, I'll fulfill your wish. Rising Sun said coldly. After saying that, he strode forward. Every time he took a step, an array would appear on the fighting ring. In the blink of an eye, more than a dozen large arrays appeared on the fighting ring. These large arrays condensed monstrous flames and rushed towards Lu Ming. Bang! Lu Ming took a step forward. Inscriptions spread out from his feet as if they were alive and swam towards the array set up by the Rising Sun. Puff. Puff. The array set up by the Rising Sun was like a bubble that disappeared with a puff. The flames that filled the sky also disappeared without a trace. What's going on? The Rising Sun was shocked. He roared and waved his hands. Another array appeared on the ground. However, this array was only half formed when Lu Ming took a step forward. The Rising Sun's array, which had just appeared, disappeared with a puff. The Rising Sun roared and continued to inscribe the array. However, Lu Ming took another step forward. The Rising Sun's array was also half formed and disappeared. Impossible. The Rising Sun's eyes were red. He roared and continued to set up the array. The blue spiritual fire between his eyebrows jumped crazily. However, Lu Ming was expressionless. With his hands behind his back, he casually stepped on the ground as if he was taking a stroll. Every time he took a step, the rising sun's array would collapse and dissipate. What a brilliant method to break the array. Every time the rising sun inscribes a large array, Tianyun accurately sees the weakness of his array and breaks it. A white-haired old man stroked his beard and nodded with a surprised expression on his face. Many people recognized that this was an elder of the Talisman Puppet sect. He was an 8th-level inscription master and was extremely powerful. Since an 8th-level inscription master had spoken, it couldn't be wrong. Many people gasped and their eyes were filled with shock. Tianyun was actually able to see through the weakness of the array of the rising sun before it was completed. In fact, he was only halfway through the array of the rising sun. This was simply too terrifying. If it was a complete array, it would be reasonable to be able to see through the weakness. However, when the array was only half-formed and not completely revealed, it was still unknown how it would operate. It was even unknown what inscriptions the other party was going to inscribe. Yet, he was able to find the weakness. This was too terrifying. Moreover, Lu Ming took a step forward effortlessly. However, he was able to break the array of rising sun quickly. His control of the mental fire was extremely shocking. This was a blatant slap to the rising sun's face. Just now, didn't the rising sun say that Lu Ming used martial arts to break the array in the 10,000 array pagoda? Then now, Lu Ming would let him see what he used to break the array. Martial arts or the Tao of inscription. At this moment, the rising sun's face was flushed red. He roared again and again. Every time the array was inscribed halfway, it would be broken by Lu Ming. This feeling was too unbearable. It was as if he had strength but couldn't use it. Every time he was halfway through, he would have to hold it back, causing him to almost vomit blood. In the end, he roared angrily and quickly retreated. With a wave of his hand, 9 huge puppets appeared and formed a battle formation before charging towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming sneered and took a step forward. All of a sudden, dense inscriptions appeared on the ground. A huge array emerged and 9 combat swords condensed. With a slash, the 9 puppets of the rising sun's sect were slashed into 2 halves. At the same time, another array appeared under the rising sun's feet. Vines flew out and entangled the rising sun. Following that, the array shone brightly as fists formed one after another and charged towards the rising sun from all directions. No, I admit defeat. The rising sun shouted, but it was too late. The endless fists drowned the rising sun. Only the rising sun's mournful screams could be heard on the battle stage. When the fists disappeared and the array disappeared, the rising sun was lying miserably on the battle stage. His body was covered in wounds and his face was swollen like a pig's head. It was impossible to recognize him as the rising sun. Looking at the miserable appearance of the rising sun, many people felt a chill run down their spines. Heart mastery. The use of the spiritual flame has reached heart mastery. Amazing. It was still the 8th-level inscriptionist who spoke. He stroked his beard and was full of admiration. What? Tianyun has reached heart mastery? Many people were shocked. Heart mastery was only 1 step away, but the difference was like heaven and earth. Apart from the 13 Zongzi candidates, only Jimai, Yan Tonghua, Meng Jia, and Hu Ming were able to reach the heart of Will's realm. Chapter 885. Now, no one doubted that Lu Ming was using martial arts to challenge the 10,000 formation pagoda. His eyesight was too terrifying, he could easily see through the weaknesses. His control of the spirit flame had reached the heart realm. Maybe he could really pass the 36th floor. This was too shocking. Tianyun's martial arts were so terrifying, even his inscription art was so terrifying. How could the others survive? Jimai, Yan Tonghua, Meng Jia, and Hu Ming's eyes turned solemn. This time, Tianyun might be their strongest opponent. Ha, not bad, not bad. Du Songjue, Bai Shijin and the others nodded and laughed. It seems like this kid is quite vengeful. Bai Shijin laughed. He was referring to the incident where Lu Ming beat the rising sun up. A real man should be like this. When you're bullied, of course you have to fight back. I feel like Lu Ming's temperament is quite similar to mine. No wonder this kid could cause a war in Jiulong City. Du Songjue smiled while stroking his snow-white beard. Since knowing that Liao Cang was assassinated by Martial Emperor De, Du Songjue and the others of the puppet sect had given up on the idea of relying on Martial Emperor De. Now, they were thinking about how to deal with Martial Emperor De. Therefore, Du Songjue's opinion of Lu Ming had changed greatly. Naturally, he hoped that Lu Ming could become stronger. It would be best if he could lead the puppet sect to fight against Martial Emperor De in the future. That's true, but Lu Ming's formation is a fist. Where did he learn it from? Why haven't I heard of such a formation before? Bai Shijin asked doubtfully. The formation was formed into a fist, and its power was not very strong. It was as if it was specially made to beat people up. They had lived for thousands of years, but they had never seen such a formation. However, they would soon know the answer. Since you're looking for a beating, I'll fulfill your wish. What do you think? This is the formation I've researched 2 days ago. It's pretty good, right? Lu Ming walked up to the rising sun and smiled. Lu Ming had learned countless inscriptions from Dandan. And all formations were composed of inscriptions. Lu Ming had nothing to do for the past 2 days, so he conceived such a formation. It was very effective to beat people up. High in the air, Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the others were dumbfounded, exchanging glances with each other. As it turned out, this formation was developed by Lu Ming himself and was specifically used to beat people up. At the same time, they were also shocked that Lu Ming was able to develop his own array formation. This was something that could only be done with an extremely solid foundation. Rising Sun's eyes were so swollen that he couldn't open them. His body moved with all his might, and he was terrified of Lu Ming. Tianyun wins this battle, Meng Chong announced. Lu Ming smiled and left the fighting ring. Someone went up and helped Rising Sun off the stage. Tianyun, good fight. Bai Chi Snow was so excited that her face was flushed red, and she clenched her fists tightly. The competition continued. Meng Chong called out names, and the contestants fought one-on-one. Lu Ming stood below, looking at the fighting ring. Lu Ming had seen a lot of battles between cultivators, but he rarely saw battles between inscription masters. Lu Ming watched with interest, watching all kinds of array formations flickering, and all kinds of puppets pouncing on each other. It was quite exciting. Meng Chong seemed to have done it on purpose. Those high god realm geniuses avoided each other from the start. Soon, it was Bai Chi Snow's turn. Bai Chi Snow's opponent wasn't strong, and Bai Chi Snow easily won. One day and one night later, all 200 contestants had finished their battles, leaving only 100 contestants. The next 100 contestants continued to fight one-on-one, and Meng Chong called out names. This time, Lu Ming was at the back of the line. When he went up the stage, his opponent directly admitted defeat. This person wasn't as strong as Rising Sun, and the Rising Sun was easily defeated by Lu Ming. Naturally, his opponent quickly admitted defeat to avoid humiliating himself. Soon, the top 50 contestants were born. Bai Chi Snow didn't advance to the next round. She met an expert and lost. Next was the competition to determine the top 25 contestants. Those who could enter the top 50 were all geniuses among geniuses. Among them, there were more than 30 high god realm geniuses, and the rest were quasi-god realm geniuses. The competition continued. This time, Lu Ming Snow's opponent was a quasi-god realm genius. However, under Lu Ming's lightning-fast array formations, the quasi-god realm genius was quickly defeated. His spiritual fire had reached the Heart's End realm, and his speed of engraving array formations was too fast. Other than that, Ji Mai, Yan Tenghua, Meng Jia, and Hu Ming also won the competition in a crushing manner. There was no suspense. The top 25 contestants were born. To everyone's surprise, several High God Realm geniuses were defeated by several newcomers. Without a doubt, these newcomers were all rising geniuses, and they were very strong. Next, among the 25 contestants, this old man will choose Jimai to enter the top 4. The remaining 24 contestants will fight one-on-one, until the last 3 contestants will fight with Jimai for the top 3. Do you have any objections? Meng Chang's voice echoed throughout the square. No objections. I have no objections. The other 24 contestants voiced their agreement. Jimai was too strong, and they would lose without a doubt if they fought him. It was better to let him advance to the next round, and they wouldn't have to face him in advance. The others naturally agreed. This time, Jimai's strength was publicly acknowledged as the number 1 contestant. Good, since all of you agree, Jimai won't fight for the time being. Next, Yan Tenghua against Gao Lu. Meng Chong announced. Yan Tenghua flew up. His opponent was a beautiful girl, who was also a High God Realm genius. Yan Tenghua belonged to the puppet faction, and he was good at controlling puppets. Gao Lu belonged to the talisman faction, and she was good at inscription talismans. Gao Lu took out 6 6th-tier 9th-tier inscription talismans, which shone with various lights. Some were used for protection, while others were used for attack and trapping. But Yan Tenghua waved his hand, and 12 puppets appeared. These 12 puppets weren't 6th-tier 9th-tier, but 6th-tier 10th-tier. The 6th-tier 10th-tier had surpassed the 9th-tier of the spiritual sea realm, and was equivalent to the perfected spiritual sea realm. Inscription talismans and puppets were similar to demonic beasts, and corresponded to martial arts. The strength of an inscriptionist had little to do with the level of spiritual fire. It mainly depended on the arrays you inscribed, the inscription talismans you mastered, and the puppets you controlled. For example, Yan Tenghua controlled 12 6th-tier 10th-tier puppets at the same time, which was equivalent to 12 experts at the perfected spiritual sea realm attacking at the same time. Moreover, he had set up an array, which was extremely powerful. Yan Tenghua ranked 115th on the list of top 1,000 talents, and his strength was terrifying. The powerful puppets easily tore through Gao Lu's attack and defense, and defeated her easily. After that, Meng Jia and Hu Ming did the same. They displayed amazing strength and defeated their opponents to enter the top 12. Tian Yun against Feng Tai. Meng Chang's voice rang out. Lu Ming stepped forward. When he saw his opponent, a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Feng Tai ranked 183rd on the list of top 1,000 talents. He was very strong, and he was also a genius that Lu Ming had beaten up last time. Chapter 886. However, Feng Tai did not provoke Lu Ming as much as the rising sun did. He had seen the rising sun's fate and was wary of Lu Ming. Tian Yun, it won't be easy for you to defeat me. I don't believe that your inscription Dao is that strong. Feng Tai said in a deep voice. Make your move. You'll know once you try. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Feng Tai did not say anything. He waved his hand and 12 giant puppets appeared in front of him. They were 12 giant wolves. Their bodies were black and they exuded a powerful aura. There were 6 class 6 10th LV and 6 peak class 6 9th LV. Each of them was 5 meters tall and 10 meters long. They looked like 12 giant monsters. The 12 giant wolf puppets formed a big formation. With a roar, they pounced on Lu Ming. There was a loud roar in the fighting ring. This Feng Tai should have ignited 7 spirit lamps for each level. Lu Ming's heart stirred. An ordinary inscription master was able to control 1 or 2 puppets, and that was already pretty good. But Feng Tai was able to control 12 powerful puppets at the same time, and he was even able to form a formation. His mental energy was definitely very strong, far surpassing an ordinary inscription master. At the same time, his use of the spirit flame must have reached the peak of the subtle realm. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to do so. In the past, Lu Ming had only learned a little about the tribes in the underground world from Liao Cang. He did not understand the essence. Moreover, the talents of the underground world were limited and their spirit flame was not strong. Their control of the spirit flame was also very shallow. Generally, they could only control one puppet. They were far inferior to the prodigies of the talisman puppet sect. Lu Ming put his hands behind his back and smiled faintly at the 12 puppets. He did not summon any puppets or inscription scrolls. What is Tianyun trying to do? Is he trying to use a formation to fight against Feng Tai's puppet battle formation? How is that possible? Carving the formation in an instant. Carving the formation can't be very advanced. It's okay to use it to deal with some opponents with great disparity in strength. But to use it to deal with Feng Tai's puppet battle formation. This is a bit too much. It's hard to say. Tianyun has already reached the heart of perfection realm, and his speed of inscribing formations is peerlessly fast. Perhaps he can instantly inscribe some powerful formations to resist Feng Tai's puppet battle formation. Seeing this situation, many people began to discuss. Just as the puppet was about to reach Lu Ming lightly stepped forward. Instantly, numerous spell formations appeared on the ground. There were a total of 12 spell formations, each of which glowed brightly as human silhouettes appeared. Lu Ming. What the formation condensed were all images of Lu Ming. They were exactly the same as him. The onlookers were dumbfounded. What kind of formation is this? Why haven't I seen it before? I've never even heard of it, let alone seen it. Someone exclaimed. 12 images of Lu Ming appeared beside the 12 puppets. Their figures flashed as they rushed towards the puppets. Then, they stretched out their palms and slapped the puppets. Break! Feng Tai roared as he controlled the puppets to attack the 12 images. Pang! 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 The 12 images were very fragile. They directly collapsed after being hit by the puppets. However, before Feng Tai could reveal a smile, the collapsed images turned into lines of inscriptions that spread across the 12 puppets, forming a formation and entering the puppets' bodies. I don't care what tricks you're playing, take this. Feng Tai roared as he controlled the puppets to continue attacking Lu Ming. This time, Lu Ming stood on the fighting ring with his hands behind his back. He really didn't move, not even his feet. What is Tianyun trying to do? He's not moving at all. Does he want to die? Or is he going to admit defeat? At such a close distance, it's too late for him to inscribe a formation to resist. Has he really given up? Does he know that he's no match for Feng Tai? There was an uproar all around. Tianyun, fight back. Below the ring, Bai Qi Shui shouted with a worried look. Roar! The giant wolf puppet roared as it waved its sharp claws towards Lu Ming. It's over. Tianyun is over. I don't know what's wrong with him. He's not fighting back or admitting defeat. Someone exclaimed. Lu Ming didn't admit defeat, so Feng Tai could continue to attack. In the sky, Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the others also looked at the fighting ring without blinking. Their eyes were full of doubts. They didn't know what Lu Ming was planning. Pretending to be mysterious. Then, you'll lose. Feng Tai's eyes were filled with madness and a hint of joy. He could finally take revenge for the previous incident. Seeing that the giant wolf puppet's claws were about to reach Lu Ming's body, the 12 giant wolf puppets suddenly stopped and stiffened in front of Lu Ming. Huh? What's going on? Could it be that Feng Tai is showing mercy? It must be so. Feng Tai must see that Tianyun can't fight back, so he stopped the puppets. Everyone guessed. But they didn't see that Feng Tai's face had become very strange. It was full of doubt, surprise, and even shock. Roar! The 12 giant wolf puppets roared and then turned around one after another, standing in front of Lu Ming and looking at Feng Tai. Many people were puzzled. Something was wrong with this posture. Go. At this time, Lu Ming spoke. Then, the 12 giant wolf puppets roared and rushed towards Feng Tai. Impossible. Feng Tai let out an incredulous roar. The blue light between his eyebrows shone, and the spiritual flame was jumping crazily. However, he found that he had completely lost control of the 12 puppets. It was as if his connection with the 12 puppets had been cut off. He was shocked. Rumble. The 12 giant puppets stepped on the fighting ring and pounced towards him. He roared and waved his hands, inscribing a formation on the ground. Light shone and the formation appeared. Unfortunately, it couldn't stop the iron hooves of the puppets. In an instant, the formation he inscribed was destroyed. The giant wolf puppet's huge claws grabbed towards Feng Tai. I admit defeat, I admit defeat. Feng Tai shouted. The giant wolf puppet's claws stopped above Feng Tai's head. All around, everyone stared at this scene with their mouths agape. What's going on? What the hell is going on? How did Feng Tai's puppets get controlled by Tianyun? I don't fucking know. Nestle, what's going on? Could it be that the formation that Tianyun inscribed before, the formation that condensed 12 identical bodies, is that the formation that controlled Feng Tai's puppets instead? What? There's such a formation in the world. Why didn't I know about it? There was an uproar in the surroundings. Many people couldn't control their emotions and cursed. The most important thing was that this scene was too strange and shocking. What kind of formation is this? In the sky, Bai Shijin and Du Songjue looked at each other in a daze. Chapter 887. Liao Cang's master never mentioned anything like this. If he did, he would have passed it down. Du Songjue said. The others nodded in agreement. Looks like Lu Ming didn't just receive Master Liao Cang's inheritance, he also had other fortuitous encounters. Bai Shijin exclaimed. This array is very magical. However, its effect is not as great as imagined. It is completely dependent on one's strong mental strength and the array to cut off the other party's connection with the puppet and take it for one's own use. Lu Ming's mental strength is much stronger than Feng Tai's. This is why he can do it. Du Songjue pondered as he commented. His eyesight was extremely sharp, his guess was not far from the truth. Lu Ming's formation was, of course, learned from Dandan. Just like what Du Songjue said, it requires a much stronger spiritual power than the opponent to be able to do it. If one's spiritual power was weaker than the opponent's, then it would be impossible to do it. But other than Du Songjue, who was a supreme being, normal people wouldn't be able to see through it. Naturally, they were shocked beyond words. Meng Chong was also stunned for a moment before he announced, this battle, Tianyun wins. The crowd was in an uproar. It was the first time they saw such a victory. Roar! The 12 giant wolf puppets roared and walked towards Lu Ming. Wait, Tianyun, my puppets, can you give them back to me? Feng Tai shouted. Yours? You must be mistaken. These puppets are obviously mine. If you don't believe me, you can call them and see if they will respond to you. Lu Ming said with a smile. Feng Tai stammered for a long time, but he couldn't say a word. His face flushed red, then he gritted his teeth and said, these puppets were originally mine. Everyone saw it. Don't you know they are spoils of war? If you have the ability, take them back. Lu Ming stared at Feng Tai with an unfriendly gaze. Roar! The 12 puppets roared and stared coldly at Feng Tai. They bared their teeth as if they were going to pounce on him at any time. Feng Tai's face turned pale. Lu Ming smiled and waved his hand, putting the 12 puppets into his storage ring. Feng Tai's heart was bleeding. The 12 puppets, especially the 6 puppets at the 10th LV of the 6th level, were as powerful as warriors in the exceptional spiritual sea realm. Moreover, they were invulnerable and fearless. When they fought, they were even more powerful than warriors in the exceptional spiritual sea realm. Each of them was priceless. He had paid a huge price to obtain it. His heart was bleeding. The same level of inscriptions. The inscription symbol scroll was much easier to refine because it was a one-time use item. It could only be used once, and then it would disappear. But a puppet could be used for a long time. The refining process was very complex, and the materials used were very precious. The price was much higher than an inscription symbol scroll of the same level. Lu Ming was in a good mood as he left the fighting ring. Around, many people cast envious looks at Lu Ming. But Ruyan Tonghua and the other talents of the puppet faction looked dignified. They thought that if they met Lu Ming later, they couldn't use the puppets. Otherwise, they would lose a lot of money. In this way, Lu Ming also entered the top 12 smoothly. The competition continued. Soon, the top 12 were all born. After a break, the competition continued. It was the competition of the top 12 to the top 6. This time, Lu Ming's opponent was still a talent of the puppet faction. This person was very strong and ranked higher than Feng Tai. But facing Lu Ming, he was trembling with fear. He didn't even dare to take out the puppets. He just fought with Lu Ming with inscription arrays. The main reason was that he was afraid that the puppets would be taken by Lu Ming, an inscription master who majored in puppets. If he didn't use puppets and only used arrays, how strong could his combat power be? Lu Ming waved his hands. The 12 giant wolf puppets that he had obtained from Feng Tai charged forward. With the help of Lu Ming's array, they easily defeated this prodigy. This person was really aggrieved. He majored in puppets, but he couldn't use puppets. He was also beaten by Lu Ming's puppets. He was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. There was another person who was also depressed to death. That was Feng Tai. These were his puppets, but now they were used by Lu Ming to fight against the enemy. Lu Ming's competition was unique and not intense at all. The other competitions were very intense. On the battle stage, light shone, and it was an eye-opener for many people. Soon, the top 6 were also out. Unsurprisingly, Yan Tonghua, Meng Jia, Hu Ming, Lu Ming, and 2 other talents were in the top 6. Next, the top 6 would advance to the top 3. After entering the top 3, the 4 of them, together with Ji Mai, would compete for the top 3, which was also the quota to enter the sky-gazing grounds. Many people were in high spirits. This was because in this round, Lu Ming, Yan Tonghua, Meng Jia, and Hu Ming were going to have a duel no matter what. The 4 of them were all talents who had mastered the spiritual fire and cultivated to the heart attainment realm. Their strength was obviously above the others. The competition continues. The first round, Tianyun against Hu Ming. Meng Chong announced loudly. The people present were shocked, and then they cheered loudly. Tianyun against Hu Ming. This was going to be interesting. This time, Hu Ming was the biggest dark horse, but Tianyun could also be said to be a dark horse because he had only shown powerful martial arts before. No one thought that his inscription Dao would be so powerful. The battle between the 2 dark horses was about to see who was stronger. Moreover, Hu Ming was from the talisman faction. He was not afraid of Lu Ming's arrays that could cut off other people's puppets. Whoosh! Whoosh! The 2 of them flew up to the fighting stage. Tianyun Zongzi, please. Hu Ming was very polite. He nodded slightly and greeted Lu Ming. He called Lu Ming Zongzi. This was one of the few people in the talisman puppet sect who called Lu Ming Zongzi. Please. Lu Ming nodded and cupped his fists. Stomp. Stomp. Hu Ming was the first to move. He took a few steps and inscriptions appeared on the ground. In an instant, a few arrays shone brightly. Scarlet flames condensed and formed battle swords that floated in front of Hu Ming. At the same time, a total of 15 inscription talisman scrolls floated around him. The inscription talisman scrolls opened one by one. Some of the talisman scrolls were for protection. They formed a flaming shield and some formed a flaming dragon. Whoosh! Roar! The flaming battle swords and the flaming dragon attacked Lu Ming. What a powerful flame! Lu Ming's eyes flickered. Regardless of whether it was the array or the inscription talisman scroll that Hu Ming inscribed, they were all flames. Moreover, this kind of flame had a frighteningly high temperature. Lu Ming felt that it was comparable to the pure purple heavenly fire cultivated by the ancient Wang family. Moreover, even though inscription masters didn't comprehend the concept of heaven and earth, every single inscription was in accordance with the great Tao of heaven and earth. They were obtained from the great Tao of heaven and earth, so the inscriptions inscribed by inscription masters would naturally contain the concept of heaven and earth. The flames that Hu Ming inscribed with arrays were extremely terrifying. Bang! Bang! Chapter 888. Lu Ming's array formation was different from Hu Ming's. Most of Hu Ming's array formations were red, but Lu Ming's array formations were blue. A dragon roared and a blue dragon condensed in the blue array formation. It rushed towards Hu Ming's battle sword and the flaming dragon and collided with each other. For a time, there was a continuous roar and a sizzling sound could be heard on the fighting stage. White mist filled the entire place. Lu Ming's array formations were all about water. The attacks that were launched were all related to water. Lu Ming took a few steps and waved his fingers. Arrays kept appearing on the fighting ring. There were water swords, water spears, flood dragons, ferocious tigers, and so on that were condensed from water. They pounced on Hu Ming. Hu Ming was also constantly inscribing array formations. At the same time, he was using inscription talismans to launch powerful attacks. Of course, Hu Ming's attacks were all blazing flames. It was a showdown between water and fire. Tian Yun has learned so many things. The array formations he inscribed before were not related to water, but other attributes. That's right. Tian Yun is really amazing. He is a peerless genius. Not only is his martial arts strong, but his inscription skills are also amazing. We have underestimated him. That's right. With his talent, he is qualified to be a Zongzi candidate. That's right. Inscriptionists were the same as martial artists. They were also biased. The inscriptions and array formations that they mastered were also biased towards a certain type. For example, Hu Ming was biased towards fire. The array formations that he inscribed were all related to fire. Some people were biased towards water, ice, thunder, and so on. Moreover, array formations were the same as martial arts. Many of them were passed down privately and not everyone could cultivate them. It was like a secret skill. The spiritual fire was like a martial artist's true essence. Array formations were like martial arts. Go! Lu Ming took out the puppets that he had obtained from Feng Tai. With a wave of his hand, the 12 puppets roared and rushed towards Hu Ming. While controlling the puppets, Lu Ming also inscribed a formation. This left many people dumbfounded. Lu Ming was controlling 12 puppets at the same time, and he was still able to continuously inscribe formations without slowing down at all. This was somewhat terrifying. Just how strong was Lu Ming's spiritual power? Hu Ming's eyes revealed a dignified look. He waved his hand, and another stack of inscription scrolls appeared in front of him. His spiritual fire spread out, and he constantly activated the inscription scrolls. He constantly attacked Lu Ming and the puppets. Moreover, all of Hu Ming's inscription talisman scrolls were at the 6th level and 10th level. They were very powerful. So powerful, both of them are so powerful. Tian Yun and Hu Ming's strength is no weaker than Yan Tenghua and Meng Jia's. That's right, any one of them has the strength to enter the top 3. Even many of the older generation nodded in shock. Below the stage, Jimai, Yan Tenghua, and Meng Jia's eyes were very dignified. If water doesn't work, then let's add ice. Lu Ming's mouth curved into a smile. He waved his fingers, and a formation appeared. The temperature of the stage dropped sharply, and countless ice swords appeared, stabbing towards Hu Ming. Lu Ming's hands moved faster and faster. On the stage, more and more formations appeared, and more attacks were launched. The dense ice swords had begun to suppress Hu Ming's attacks. Coupled with the attacks of the 12 puppets, Hu Ming was already at a disadvantage. Fast, too fast. How can Tianyun's inscription speed be so terrifying? It's far faster than Hu Ming's. Tianyun's cultivation level is higher than Hu Ming's. Tianyun has at least reached the middle stage of heart satisfaction. So terrifying, a mere 6th level inscriptionist can reach the middle stage of heart satisfaction. Too powerful. Everyone was amazed. At this time, the stage was filled with white light and cold air, as if it could freeze the air. Hu Ming had no power to fight back. I admit defeat. At this time, Hu Ming suddenly shouted. Lu Ming moved his hand and waved it again. The array on the fighting ring disappeared simultaneously. Hu Ming panted heavily, and the spiritual flame between his eyebrows pulsed continuously. He felt exhausted. In the previous battle, his spiritual flame had been severely depleted, and he could no longer fight. On the other hand, Lu Ming was calm and composed, as if the previous battle had not consumed much of his energy. Tianyun Zongzi is strong and has profound spiritual power. Hu Ming admires you. Hu Ming smiled and cupped his fists. You're strong too. I won by luck. Lu Ming smiled. Tianyun wins this battle. Next, Yan Tenghua against Zhang Xian. Meng Chong announced. Everyone perked up and watched the next battle. Yan Tenghua was a prodigy of the marionette faction, and Zhang Xian was also a prodigy of the marionette faction. Both of them were very strong, and the battle was very intense. On the stage, a large group of puppets were fighting, but in the end, Yan Tenghua's spiritual power was stronger, and his spiritual flame was stronger. He controlled more puppets and defeated Zhang Xian. Then, it was Meng Jia's turn. Meng Jia was also a prodigy of the marionette faction. He controlled an army of puppets and won. Just like that, the top 3 were born. They were Lu Ming, Yan Tenghua, Meng Jia, and Ji Mai. They were the top 4. The 4 of them looked at each other. They only needed to eliminate one more person to get a spot on the observation platform. The 4 of you will take turns to fight, and you will be ranked according to your results. Meng Chong announced. Lu Ming nodded. Usually, the ranking would be based on this hairstyle. It was the fairest. In this way, each person would have to fight 3 rounds against the other 3. The first battle, Tianyun against Yan Tenghua. Next, Ji Mai against Meng Jia. Meng Chong announced. As soon as he finished speaking, the atmosphere in the arena was completely ignited. The final battle was finally about to begin. Lu Ming and Yan Tenghua went up at the same time and stood facing each other. Between Tianyun and Yan Tenghua, who do you think will win? I think it will be Tianyun. Tianyun has that kind of formation that can restrain the puppets. At the same time, Tianyun is also very strong. Being able to defeat Hu Ming is enough to prove his strength. I think so too. Among the 4 of them, only Ji Mai can fight with Tianyun. Yan Tenghua and Meng Jia are probably weaker than him. The crowd began to discuss, but now, no one looked down on Lu Ming. Up until now, Lu Ming had already proven himself. Tianyun, although your formation is strange, it must have its limits. It can't casually cut off the opponent's connection with the puppets and take them for your own use. It won't be that easy for you to defeat me. Yan Tenghua said. His eyes were filled with strong battle intent. Obviously, a prodigy like him wouldn't admit defeat so easily. We'll know in a battle. Lu Ming chuckled. All right, then let's fight. Yan Tonghua waved his hand, and a total of 15 puppets appeared in front of him. Each of them emitted a strong aura. Each of them was a Class 6 LV Stage 10 puppet. Yan Tonghua could actually control 15 Class 6 LV Stage 10 puppets at the same time. Chapter 889. Lu Ming had a faint smile on his face as he stared at the 15 puppets. His expression was very calm. The puppets were getting closer and closer to Lu Ming. Countless people looked at Lu Ming's figure on the stage. They knew that Lu Ming was going to use that move again. Would that move still work on Yan Tonghua? Everyone's eyes were fixed on the stage. Soon, the answer would be revealed. Just when the puppets were a few meters away from Lu Ming took a step forward. On the ground, a total of 15 arrays appeared. In a flash of light, 15 figures that looked exactly like Lu Ming appeared. As soon as they appeared, they pounced on the 15 puppets. Bang! Bang! As soon as the figures came into contact with the puppets, they would explode like balloons and turn into inscriptions that filled the puppets, forming a large array and entering the puppets. Come on, I don't believe that you can cut off the connection between me and the puppets. Yan Tonghua's eyes flickered. Between his eyebrows, the spirit fire jumped. In front of Lu Ming, the 15 puppets stopped moving at the same time. Dazzling lights were emitting from the heads of the 15 puppets. This was Lu Ming cutting off the connection between Yan Tonghua and the puppets. You want to cut off my spirit fire? Impossible. Yan Tonghua roared and stopped all his movements. Light flickered between his eyebrows. A blue spirit fire jumped continuously, turning into invisible spirit threads that connected the 15 puppets. It was indestructible. Between Lu Ming's eyebrows, there was also a blue spirit fire jumping. He was using an array to cut off the connection between Yan Tonghua and the puppets. However, Yan Tonghua's spirit force was much stronger than Feng Tai's. Moreover, the use of the spirit fire had reached the Heart of Will realm. His spirit force was tenacious and indomitable. It was more than 10 times harder to cut it off than Feng Tai. Lu Ming found that he had encountered a strong resistance. You can't stop me. Lu Ming muttered. The mental energy flame between his eyebrows burned even brighter, as if it was about to materialize. Wave after wave of mental energy rushed into the puppet's head, acting on the array. The puppet's head flashed with light, incomparably dazzling. I won't lose. Yan Tonghua's eyes were incomparably resolute as he resisted with all his might. In the end, he even let out a loud roar as spiritual rings appeared above his head. Red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, and blue spirit rings. The first 4 spirit rings had 8 light spots on each of them, and they were dazzling. The cyan and blue spirit rings each had 7 light spots. This meant that Yan Tonghua had ignited 8 spirit lamps in the first 4 levels, and 7 spirit lamps in the 5th and 6th levels. If Yan Tonghua couldn't ignite his 8th mind lamp at grade 6, then his next step would be to break through grade 6 to grade 7. In the first 4 levels, he had ignited 8 spirit lamps, and in the 5th and 6th levels, he had ignited 7. Such a result was already very impressive. The appearance of the spiritual ring caused Yan Tonghua's spiritual power to increase greatly. His spiritual power surged into the puppet like a tide. Roar! Roar! The 15 puppets roared as their bodies trembled slightly, as if they were about to be controlled by Yan Tonghua again. Looks like Tianyun's array requires a strong spiritual power to cut off the other party's connection with the puppet. At this time, the others also saw the mystery behind it. This is normal. Otherwise, if it could cut off the other party's connection with the puppet and take the puppet for himself, then this array is too heaven-defying and illogical. Many people nodded. However, they still stared at the battle stage without blinking, waiting to see if Lu Ming could successfully suppress Yan Tonghua. If he couldn't take Yan Tonghua's puppet, then it would be hard to say who would win in a head-on battle. Yan Tonghua, you can't stop me. The corner of Lu Ming's mouth curled up into a smile. At this moment, his eyes seemed to be suffused with a blue light. Buzz! All of a sudden, rings appeared above his head. They were spiritual rings. Tianyun released his spiritual rings. Look at how many spiritual lamps he has lit. Wait, this. Oh my God, I'm seeing things, I'm seeing things. Why did I see 10 spiritual lamps in the first 5 rings? My eyes are also playing tricks on me. Damn it, why are my eyes playing tricks on me? Why did I see him lighting up 10 spirit lamps? Can you guys help me see how many he has lit up? I also saw 10 spiritual lamps. The first 5 rings all have 10 spiritual lamps. The 6th ring has 5 spiritual lamps. What? Why are you seeing the same thing as me? Are you seeing things too? I saw the same thing too. Me too. The scene was noisy. Almost everyone couldn't believe what they were seeing and subconsciously thought that they were seeing things. But when all of them gave the same answer, they were stunned. All of a sudden, the entire place fell into a deathly silence. Everyone's eyes widened and their mouths opened wider and wider. All of them were involuntarily convulsing. 10 spiritual lamps were lit in the first 5 rings. That was too terrifying. All of them had reached perfection. Was he still human? For tens of thousands of years in the Talisman Puppet sect, only Emperor Liansong could achieve such a result. Now, there was another one. As for the 6th level, there were only 5 light spots. This was because Lu Ming had yet to reach the peak of this level. Oh my God, he's simply a monster. No wonder the masters of the 2 sects and the various elders made Lu Ming a candidate Zongzi. Isn't it normal to be a candidate Zongzi with such talent? In the crowd, Rising Sun, Guan Rong, Feng Tai, and the others who had been beaten up by Lu Ming were tongue-tied. They stood there in a daze and were completely speechless. It turned out that their enemy was such a monster. At this moment, they were secretly glad that they were still alive. They were simply not on the same level as Lu Ming. Forget it, it's unwise to be an enemy of such a monster. Rising Sun shook his head and sighed. He originally wanted to take revenge on Lu Ming in the future, but now, he had completely given up on that thought. Feng Tai, Guan Rong, and the other Sky Prides also shook their heads and sighed. They admitted that they were unlucky. Who asked them to be blind? Jimai, Meng Jia, and Hu Ming's eyes widened in shock. It's not wrong for me to lose to him, Hu Ming said with a smile. On the other side, Bai Qi's little mouth was wide open and could not be closed for a long time. This guy, he really hid it from me, Bai Qi thought in her heart. Many elders of the Talisman Puppet sect were also unaware of this beforehand. At this moment, they were also extremely shocked. They looked at the smiling Bai Shijin and the others in the sky and finally understood that the elders had long known about Lu Ming's talent. On the battle stage, Yan Tonghua was even more shocked. He was tongue-tied, and even his mental energy ring was shaking. Boom! Chapter 890. Roar! Roar! The puppet's roar shook everyone's spirits and brought them back to their senses. Tianyun, I've lost. Yan Tonghua's shock turned into a deep sigh. Many people sighed in their hearts as well. It was normal for Yan Tonghua to lose. It wasn't that Yan Tonghua wasn't strong enough, but that Lu Ming was too monstrous. He had mastered a formation that could restrain him. After Yan Tonghua admitted defeat, he turned around and was about to leave. Wait! Lu Ming shouted. Yan Tonghua turned around and said, Is there anything else? Your puppet. Lu Ming smiled and pointed at the 15 puppets. Yan Tonghua was slightly stunned, then he clasped his fists and said, Thank you. Then he waved his hand and put away the puppets, walking down the fighting ring. Well, not bad, not bad. In the sky, Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and a few old yun nodded their heads. He had won and even returned the puppet to Yan Tonghua. This proved that Lu Ming was not someone who was greedy for petty gains. He was upright and upright. He had defeated Feng Tai and kept Feng Tai's puppet because Feng Tai had offended Lu Ming in the past and had a grudge against Lu Ming. Since there was a grudge, of course he had to teach Feng Tai a lesson. Tianyun wins this battle. Meng Chong announced, winning loud cheers. Tianyun, Tianyun, I love you. Loud cheers burst out from nowhere. Everyone looked in the direction of the sound and found that it was from a group of young women. These women's eyes were shining as they looked at the elegant Lu Ming in the fighting ring and shouted loudly. Lu Ming had a delicate appearance. Coupled with his cultivation of martial arts, his temperament was very special and had a different kind of charm. For young women, he was very attractive. At this moment, Lu Ming had displayed his incomparable talent, which naturally attracted the attention of many young women. Lu Ming rubbed his nose with a wry smile and walked down the fighting ring, causing countless young men to cast envious, jealous, and hateful gazes at him. After Lu Ming left the stage, Ji Mai and Meng Jia stepped onto the stage. The crowd quieted down and turned their attention back to the fighting stage. Ji Mai's ranking on the list of top 1,000 talents was higher than Meng Jia's, but that was a few years ago. Now, it was hard to say who was stronger. Countless people were curious to know if Meng Jia could fight with Ji Mai. Without any superfluous words, the two of them made their move. Meng Jia was also a prodigy of the marionette faction. He summoned 15 marionettes at once. Like Yan Tonghua, they were all class 6 10th tier. However, Meng Jia's puppets were much smaller. They were actually puppets with the appearance of large snow-white condors. The snow-white eagle exuded an icy aura. Its wings were like ice blades, dancing in the air and forming a formation that slashed towards Ji Mai. Ji Mai's face was calm. He took a few steps and a formation appeared on the ground. Sharp golden sword radiance shot out from the formation and slashed towards the snow-white eagles. At the same time, inscription talismans appeared around him. His mind power flowed, and the inscription talismans opened. Endless golden light burst out. Boom! Boom! Suddenly, an earth-shattering roar sounded in the fighting ring. The wings of the snow-white eagle puppets were like blades, constantly colliding with the golden sword radiance. Swoosh! Ji Mai waved his hand and a row of inscription talismans flew out. After they were activated, the sky was filled with golden sword radiance. It fell from the sky and slashed towards Meng Jia. Meng Jia shouted. With a wave of her hands, 3 puppets flew back to her and formed a protective formation around her. Ji Mai wouldn't be able to break through in a short period of time. For a moment, the two of them seemed to be evenly matched. The battle lasted for more than 10 minutes. It seems that Ji Mai can't defeat Meng Jia. Yes, the two of them are evenly matched. Meng Jia's strength is not weaker than Yan Tonghua's, but also not stronger. So, will Tianyun get first place this time? It's hard to say. Ji Mai is from the Talisman faction. Tianyun won't be able to restrain him. It's hard to say. Sounds of discussion came from all around. Lu Ming was also watching seriously. He frowned and his gaze fell on Ji Mai. He had a feeling that Ji Mai wasn't so simple. Ji Mai gave him a dangerous feeling. Ji Mai still had a killing move that he hadn't used yet. At this moment, Ji Mai waved his hand and all the inscription talismans that hadn't been activated were put away. The others were stunned. Ji Mai actually put away the inscription talismans. Was he going to admit defeat? Or was he afraid that if he continued to fight, the inscription talismans would be consumed too much? The puppets of the puppet faction could fight a long battle. The talisman faction used inscription talismans. If they couldn't defeat their opponent in one fell swoop, they would suffer great losses. It was normal for Jimai to admit defeat. Jimai, are you going to admit defeat? Meng Jia asked. Fight. Jimai's answer was simple. Then I won't be polite. Meng Jia continued to control his puppet and rushed towards Jimai. When Meng Jia's puppet approached Jimai, Jimai's hand was like a sword. He slashed out and a dazzling sword light burst out, as if it could split the sky in half. Pang! The sword light accurately struck a large condor puppet. One of the condor puppet's wings was directly cut in half, and the large condor puppet was sent flying far away. At the same time, Jimai's palm slashed out again and again. Pang! Pang! Several eagle puppets were sent flying in succession. They were seriously injured. What a terrifying power! A 6th level 10th stage puppet was so tough, but it was cut in half by the sword light. Lu Ming's pupils shrank. Martial skill, no, it's an array. It's using one's body to carve an array. Lu Ming was shocked. His gaze fell on Jimai's body. At first, he thought it was a martial skill, but after taking a closer look, he knew it wasn't. At this moment, inscriptions appeared on Jimai's skin, forming a mysterious array. It emitted a terrifying aura that was beyond the spiritual sea level. Carving an array with one's body. Many people cried out in surprise. They were extremely shocked. Indeed, Jimai is carving an array with his body. It should be a 7th level killing array, the Golden Light 10,000 kill array. Someone from the older generation said. Carving an array with one's body. Lu Ming muttered to himself. Carving an array with one's body, as the name suggested, was to carve an array into one's body and merge it with the body. The body itself would become a killing array. It was completely different from the array Lu Ming used to carve true energy eruption arrays on his body to conceal his aura. Lu Ming's arrays were all auxiliary arrays that were temporarily on the surface of the body. After a period of time, when the energy was exhausted, they would naturally disappear. However, carving an array with one's body was different. It was to carve the array into the depths of the body and merge it with the body. The body was the array, and the array was the body. Chapter 891. For example, Jimai had inscribed a 7th grade array, the Golden Light 10,000 slaughter array. Even though it was a 7th grade array, the power of this array was still very strong. It was capable of killing spirit embryo realm practitioners. However, it was too difficult and dangerous to inscribe an array with one's own body. How powerful was the killing formation? The slightest carelessness would cause one's physical body to be minced and turned into ashes, leaving not even a corpse behind. No one had expected Jimai to be able to inscribe an array with his own body. It should be an incomplete array. Otherwise, it would be even more powerful. Some of the older generation figures saw through the array. Many people nodded. That should be the case. If it had been a complete formation, Meng Jia's puppet would have been smashed to smithereens with a single sword strike. However, even if it was an incomplete Golden Light 10,000 killing array, it was still extremely powerful. Moreover, it was difficult for a level 6 inscriber to unleash the full power of a level 7 array. If Jimai can complete the formation and inscribe the complete Golden Light 10,000 kill formation, his combat strength will be amazing. He will be able to fight against the top 100 talents on the list. That's right. If he can complete the array and become a level 7 inscriber, he will be even more powerful. Many people were discussing. Meng Jia, do you still want to fight? A sharp light flickered in Jimai's eyes, as if a sword light was about to appear. I can't believe you managed to inscribe an array with your own body. I'm impressed. I'm no match for you. This battle is meaningless. I admit defeat. Meng Jia directly admitted defeat. Meng Chong announced that Jimai had won. Next, Meng Chong announced the second round. Tianyun against Meng Jia, and Ji Mai against Yan Tenghua. Meng Chong seemed to have intentionally left Ji Mai and Tianyun for last. I admit defeat in this battle. In the arena, Meng Jia directly admitted defeat against Lu Ming. Her mental strength was on par with Yan Tenghua's. If she were to fight with Lu Ming would definitely seize the puppet in the end. There was no point in fighting this battle. Her final battle would be with Yan Tenghua for the third place. As expected, Yan Tenghua and Meng Jia had the same idea and directly admitted defeat against Ji Mai. He knew that he wasn't a match for Ji Mai, so he might as well conserve his mental power and fight Meng Jia. At this point, Tianyun and Ji Mai had won both of their matches. They had already secured the top 3 spots and secured the spots to enter the observatory. Third round, Yan Tenghua against Meng Jia, Tianyun against Ji Mai. Meng Chong announced. The atmosphere became even more lively. The competition had finally reached its final round. These 2 matches were able to arouse the curiosity in everyone's hearts. Yan Tenghua and Meng Jia were 2 geniuses from the puppet faction, and they were only a few places apart on the list of top 1,000 talents. Who was stronger? Ji Mai and Tianyun, on the other hand, were the main attraction. Ji Mai had actually mastered the extremely difficult and dangerous art of carving formations with his own body. His combat prowess was incomparably powerful. Tianyun, this dark horse, seemed to have appeared out of nowhere. The moment he appeared, he was appointed as a Zongzi candidate by the masters of the 2 sects and the various doyens. This shook the entire heaven and earth mountain. Previously, he had displayed terrifying martial arts combat strength. And this time, the inscription talent revealed in the competition was also incomparably shocking. Between Lu Ming and Ji Mai, who was stronger? Everyone was looking forward to it. Amidst everyone's anticipation, the competition began. First, Yan Tenghua and Meng Jia competed for third place. Both of them were puppets, and the battle was extremely fierce. The collision between the puppets was violent, direct, and barbaric. Both of their mind power and spiritual fire were at the early stage of heart attainment. It could be said that they were evenly matched. The 2 of them fought for a full half an hour. In the end, Yan Tenghua was more resilient and won by a slight margin. In this way, Yan Tenghua finally secured third place. Then, the final battle between Tianyu and Ji Mai began. The 2 of them stepped onto the fighting ring and faced each other. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the fighting ring. Who do you think will win, Tianyun or Ji Mai? It seems like Ji Mai has a higher chance of winning. After all, he has cultivated the Golden Light 10,000 kill array. It's extremely powerful and unstoppable. I don't think so. Tianyun has many tricks up his sleeve. He's good at many arrays, and his mind power is incomparably strong. Who knows if he has any other tricks up his sleeve? That's true. This battle is going to be interesting. Gradually, the surrounding voices quieted down. Everyone stared at the 2 people on the fighting ring. Tianyun, I won't hold back in this battle. Be careful. Ji Mai reminded. That's exactly what I wanted. Go all out. Lu Ming smiled faintly as he stared at Ji Mai. All of a sudden, a terrifying aura emanated from Ji Mai's body. Inscriptions began to appear on his skin. Whoosh! Ji Mai waved his hand, and a terrifying sword light slashed towards Lu Ming. Go! Lu Ming waved his hand, and 12 puppets appeared. They roared as they charged towards Ji Mai. Bang! A Class 9 giant wolf puppet was sliced in half by the sword light. However, the other puppets didn't stop there and continued to attack. At the same time, Lu Ming stepped forward and waved his hands, starting to inscribe an array on the ground. Whoosh! Whoosh! Ji Mai waved his hands continuously, and streaks of sword gleams flashed. Lu Ming controlled the puppets to pounce and defend against the sword gleams. Among the 12 puppets, 6 of them were Class 9 giant wolf puppets. They were quickly sliced in half and turned into scrap metal. The other 6 were also severely injured. However, they managed to block the attacks for 10 breaths of time, which bought Lu Ming enough time to inscribe an array. Whoosh! Whoosh! A large array appeared around Lu Ming. Sword chi whistled and thunder rumbled. Endless sword chi bombarded Ji Mai. It was a top-class 6 array, sword roar thunder array. Many people were shocked. They didn't expect Lu Ming to be able to inscribe a top-class 6 array in 10 breaths of time. Break for me! Ji Mai shouted and waved his hands. The inscriptions on his body glowed and emitted a terrifying aura. The sword light collided with the sword roar thunder array. At the same time, Lu Ming continued to inscribe an array. Although the sword roar thunder array was strong, it couldn't resist Ji Mai. Soon, the array was broken by Ji Mai. However, in the next moment, Lu Ming's other array appeared. Countless lush vines wrapped around Ji Mai. Another top-class 6 array. Ji Mai's sword light flashed, and endless sword chi slashed at the vines. However, the vines were too tough and couldn't be cut in half. By the time Ji Mai broke through this array, Lu Ming had finished inscribing the other 2 top-class 6 arrays and was waiting for him. Too fast. Tianyun's inscribing speed is too fast. That's right. His use of spiritual fire isn't as simple as the early heart transcendence stage. It feels even more terrifying than the middle heart transcendence stage. It can't be. Could it be that he's already reached the late heart transcendence stage? That's a realm that only top-class 7 inscriptionists can reach. Chapter 892. 10,000 Golden Light Kill, Kill. Ji Mai roared as the inscriptions on his body shone even brighter. Even his eyes were filled with sword chi. Whoosh! Whoosh! At this moment, his entire being seemed to have transformed into a killing formation. Endless sword light burst out from his body as if every inch of his skin could burst out with sword light. He was like a moving 7th grade formation, crushing towards Lu Ming. Boom! Boom! A terrifying explosion sounded as the 2 6th grade formations that Lu Ming had laid down were destroyed by Ji Mai in an instant. Lu Ming retreated quickly, his hands and feet not stopping at all as inscriptions continued to spread out. Wang! Another 6th grade formation appeared, but Ji Mai strode forward, destroying everything in his path. His sword chi was incomparably powerful. At this moment, Ji Mai's battle power was no weaker than a martial arts practitioner at the 1st level of Spirit Embryo Realm. The 6th grade formation was destroyed in a few breaths' time. Tianyun is going to lose. The 6th grade formation can't stop him at all. That's right. The time he took to inscribe the formations was less than the time Ji Mai took to destroy them. He's already at a disadvantage and won't be able to hold on for much longer. It's a pity that Tianyun didn't make sufficient preparations before participating in the competition. Didn't you notice? He didn't prepare any puppets or inscription scrolls. That's true. If he had made sufficient preparations, he might have been able to fight. The others, such as the puppet faction, would have prepared many puppets before participating in the competition. The talisman faction would also inscribe many inscription scrolls, but Lu Ming didn't seem to have any. Lu Ming was indeed unprepared. He did have a few inscription scrolls, but the most powerful one was only at the 6th grade and 9th grade, so it wasn't very useful. Bam! Ji Mai destroyed yet another grade 6 grand formation. Tianyun, admit defeat. You're not my match. Ji Mai's voice rang out. Is that so? That's exactly what I wanted to say. At this moment, Lu Ming smiled faintly and suddenly stopped inscribing inscriptions. Many people in the surroundings were stunned. They didn't understand why Lu Ming suddenly stopped. From his words, it seemed that he wanted to tell Jimai to admit defeat. What was going on? This guy. The eyes of some senior figures at the domain enlightened spirit god realm flickered successively, and they seemed to have discerned something and were extremely surprised. Let's see what else you have up your sleeves. Jimai strode forward, charging towards Lu Ming. At this moment, Lu Ming took a light step forward. Wang! On the fighting platform, a bright light shone as a huge array appeared. Amidst the resplendent light, countless pillars of fire rushed out. Pillars of fire intertwined with each other, forming a huge cage that trapped Jimai within. Sword light burst forth from Jimai's body, slashing at the pillars of fire. Intense rumbling sounds could be heard, but the pillars of fire remained motionless. He couldn't cut it. A 7th grade formation. Jimai's face paled. 7th level array formation, it's the 7th level array formation, Heavenly Flame Prison. Someone roared as he recognized the array formation. My God! When did Tianyun inscribe a 7th level array formation? He must have inscribed it when he was inscribing the 6th level array formation. Amazing, too amazing. He actually inscribed a 7th level array formation along with the 6th level array formation. He used those 6th level arrays to obstruct Jimai and perfected the 7th level array formation step by step. It's too terrifying. Many people in the surroundings roared and were extremely shocked. It was already an extraordinary feat for a 6th level inscriber to be able to inscribe a 7th level array formation. However, Lu Ming had done it in the middle of a battle. He'd completed it step by step in a battle against a formidable opponent like Jimai in an extremely short amount of time. It was extremely shocking. This was the complete 7th level array formation, Heavenly Flame Prison. However, Jimai's array formation wasn't complete, so it was difficult for him to bring forth its full might. It was utterly impossible for him to break Lu Ming's array formation. What do you think, Jimai? Lu Ming stood outside the array formation as his voice sounded out. The light around Jimai's body dimmed as he let out a long sigh. I admit defeat. He knew that Lu Ming had shown him mercy. If Lu Ming had inscribed a 7th level killing array, he would have been defeated. The Heavenly Flame Prison was merely a trapping array to trap him. Thank you for letting me win. Lu Ming clasped his fists. Then, with a wave of his hand, the inscription disappeared and the fire pillar disappeared. Tianyun wins this battle. Meng Chong announced. Following Meng Chong's announcement, the square was in an uproar. Obviously, this result was completely out of everyone's expectations. Before the start of the competition, no one had expected this result. High up in the air, Bai Shijin stood up from his seat and pressed his hands in the air. All the voices in the square quieted down. Now, this seat announces that the first place of this year's competition is Tianyun. Bai Shijin's voice was like a hurricane, spreading throughout the square. Tianyun, Tianyun. In a certain area, a group of beautiful women were screaming loudly, their faces flushed with excitement. Also, Tianyun is a candidate for Zongzi. Do you have any objections? Bai Shijin's voice was heard again. The square suddenly fell silent as all eyes gathered on Lu Ming again. Their eyes were a little complicated. Tianyun was such a genius, what objections could they have? This time, he had used his strength to prove himself. Not only was he a genius in martial arts, but even his inscription Dao was so terrifying. How many people in the world could be like him? Tianyun Zongzi. Suddenly, a loud shout resounded throughout the square. It was Bai Qi Shui. She raised her hand and shouted. Tianyun Zongzi. Tianyun Zongzi. In a certain area, a group of women screamed loudly. This time, the shouts were getting louder and louder, and gradually, the others, be it some young male disciples, some female disciples, or even some of the older generation, all began shouting Tianyun Zongzi's name loudly. Among the crowd, Rising Sun, Feng Tai, and the others had a complicated look. Before the competition, they were prepared to humiliate Lu Ming ruthlessly in the competition to get revenge for being beaten up by Lu Ming. However, what happened in the end? In the first 3 rounds of the competition, not only did they fail to humiliate Lu Ming, but they were also humiliated by Lu Ming. In the end, the halo around Lu Ming became even brighter and more dazzling. Compared to him, they were like fireflies. There was no way they could compete with him. Tianyun Zongzi. They smiled wryly and shouted along with the crowd in the end. Lu Ming looked around. At this moment, his eyes and heart were calm. He was well aware of his goal. Currently, he had only obtained the initial approval of the Talisman Puppet sect. However, it was only the initial stage. He still had a long way to go if he wanted to earn their support. Especially the elders in the sky. His goal was to win the Battle of Luck. Coming first in the Battle of Luck was his goal. Chapter 893. In the sky, Bai Shijin's lips curled into a smile. This guy seems to think highly of Lu Ming. On the side, Du Songjue's eyes flashed. He knew that Bai Shijin was building momentum for Lu Ming, but he did not refute or stop him. All right. At this moment, Bai Shijin's voice was heard again, and the scene quieted down. Now, I announce the results of this competition. First place, Tianyun. Second place, Ji Mai. Third place, Yan Tonghua. Bai Shijin announced, but then his tone changed and he said, originally, we planned to let 3 people enter the observatory this time, but because there are many geniuses this time and the quality is very high, and the Battle of Providence is near, the elders and I have decided to increase the number to 5. Other than Tianyun, Ji Mai, and Yan Tonghua, Meng Jia and Hu Ming can also enter the sky observation platform. Alright, the competition is now over. You all can rest for a while and enter the sky observation platform tomorrow. As soon as Bai Shijin's voice fell, the competition ended. Meng Jia and Hu Ming were naturally overjoyed. The others also looked at them enviously. Tianyun, I didn't know you were so powerful. Bai Qi Shui looked at Lu Ming curiously. Let's go. Lu Ming pulled Bai Qi Shui's little hand and flew in the direction of Cloud Peak residence. Because in one direction, a large group of young women was flocking towards Lu Ming. That momentum made Lu Ming run away. After flying for tens of thousands of miles, the two slowed down. Suddenly, Lu Ming felt that his hand was holding a soft and cold little hand. He turned his head and saw Bai Qi Shui looking at him with big eyes and a blush on her smiling face. Lu Ming hurriedly let go and said, sorry, I was in a hurry just now. In a hurry, or taking advantage of me? Bai Qi Shui smiled. Lu Ming was embarrassed and coughed a few times. Why are you running so fast? Isn't it great to have so many beauties chasing after you? You must be secretly pleased with yourself, right? Bai Qi Snow teased. No, I already have someone in my heart. Lu Ming smiled. Xian Yanqing's figure flashed in his mind. He wondered how she was doing. She should have returned to the Central Continent ancient sage dynasty. Oh. Is that so? Hearing Lu Ming say that he already had someone in his heart, Bai Qi's snowy face slightly stiffened. A sliver of disappointment and sadness faintly appeared in her eyes, but it only lasted for a moment before a smile once again appeared on her face. She must be very beautiful to be able to catch your eye, right? Yes, very beautiful. Lu Ming said with a smile. Then, he looked at Bai Qi Shui with a smile and teased, what? Don't tell me you've fallen for me. Go away, don't flatter yourself. Bai Qi Shui's face instantly turned red. Then, she glared at Lu Ming and said, you want me to fall for you? You're still far from it. If you're a genius like Lu Ming, then that's more likely. Cough cough cough. Lu Ming could not stop coughing. What's wrong with you? Bai Qi Shui asked. My throat is uncomfortable, nothing. Lu Ming spouted nonsense. No way, your martial Tao is so strong, how can your throat be uncomfortable? Bai Qi Shui was surprised. It's nothing, let's go back to Cloud Peak Residence first. Lu Ming changed the topic and walked towards Cloud Peak Residence. The next day, Lu Ming came to the top of a mountain. There was a huge altar at the top of the mountain. Ji Mai, Yan Tenghua, Meng Jia, and Hu Ming were with him. In addition, Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and a few other founding elders were also there. Now, we'll open the passage to the observatory. You guys can go and cultivate, but you only have a month. After a month, you'll be teleported back. So, during this month, you have to make the best use of your time to cultivate. Bai Shijin warned. Yes. Lu Ming and the others nodded. They knew in their hearts that to open the passage to the observatory and maintain it for a month, it would consume a lot of origin stones. Moreover, the more people entered, the more resources would be consumed. Therefore, the quota to enter the observatory was extremely precious. Before this, only 13 Zongzi candidates of this generation of youths had entered the Zongzi realm. In the past, only 3 people in each generation could enter because the consumption was too great. Now that it was the War of Fortune, and this generation was the Golden Age, more people were allowed to enter. Then, Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the 3 founding elders, a total of 5 people, surrounded the huge altar and began to inscribe inscriptions. Countless origin stones flew out of their hands and were devoured by the altar. Buzz! Moments later, the altar shone brightly as inscriptions intertwined. A huge vortex suddenly appeared above the altar. The passage is open, quickly enter. Bai Shijin shouted. Lu Ming's group of 5 did not dare to delay. They stepped onto the altar and rushed into the vortex. Of course, Dandan did not follow. Lu Ming threw him into the Cloud Peak residence. The world spun, and in the next moment, Lu Ming found himself standing on a platform. The platform floated in the air, about 2 meters wide. Lu Ming looked around and realized that he seemed to be in the middle of the universe. There was a boundless starry sky in all directions, and below him was also a vast starry sky. There was only one platform floating in the air. On the left and right sides, Lu Ming saw 2 platforms. Ji Mai, Meng Jia, and the other 3 were on one platform, looking around in amazement. In front of them was a vast river that seemed to cross the entire starry sky, stretching from one end of the universe to the other. This is the law of inscription. Lu Ming was shocked. This was not the first time he had seen the law of inscription. In the past, he had only seen it in a meditative state through the spiritual force cultivation method. But now, it seemed like he was very close to the law of inscription. With a single thought, he could feel the vast inscription energy in front of him. Lu Ming's spiritual force fire throbbed violently. Sky Observation Platform, as expected of the Sky Observation Platform. He could actually observe the law of inscription at such a close distance. At such a close distance, how fast would he be able to absorb the inscription energy? At this time, Ji Mai's group of 4 was already sitting cross-legged, circulating their spiritual force cultivation method to absorb the inscription energy. Rich inscription energy continuously poured into Ji Mai's group, turning into 4 pillars of light that enveloped them. Such rich inscription energy! Lu Ming exclaimed. Without further delay, he also sat down cross-legged and circulated the underworld god observation method. Buzz! In an instant, he felt a connection with the law of inscription. A resplendent pillar of light descended from the law of inscription, enveloping Lu Ming within. Ji Mai, Meng Jia, and the other 3 opened their eyes, looking at Lu Ming in shock. They realized that the light pillar formed by Lu Ming's inscription energy was more than 10 times stronger than theirs. What kind of cultivation method is he practicing? Why is it so terrifying? The 4 were astounded. The spiritual force cultivation method they practiced was already the best in the talisman puppet sect, but Lu Ming's cultivation method seemed to be even more shocking than theirs. Which disciple of the talisman puppet sect wasn't envious of being able to enter the sky observation platform? It's alright. Do you have any questions about your cultivation during this period? Lu Ming said. Yes, Master has been very busy recently and has no time to guide me. I can only rely on you. Bai Qi Snow giggled and immediately voiced out some of her doubts. Lu Ming muttered to himself for a moment before explaining his understanding. The two of them began to discuss. A few hours later, Lu Ming returned to his room and began to think about the direction of his cultivation. There were only 3 months left before the Battle of Providence. Right now, his path of inscription and refinement had already reached a sufficiently high level. It was very difficult for him to improve greatly within a short period of time. In the remaining time, Lu Ming had to spend all his efforts on martial arts. I need to find a place with many demonic beasts. I can hunt them and devour their blood essence to improve my bloodline. I can also borrow the power of the demonic beasts to temper my intent realm and comprehend martial arts techniques. Lu Ming pondered. Then, he took out a portion of demonic beast blood essence and began to devour and refine it. The last time he bought a batch of blood essence, he had not refined it yet. This time, he used all of it to improve the 9 dragons' bloodline. After the 9 dragons' bloodline awakened the 9 dragon claws, the amount of blood essence required was shockingly high. After refining 50 portions of level 6 7th tier demonic beast blood essence and 50 portions of level 6 8th tier demonic beast blood essence, the 9 dragons' bloodline only improved by 1 level to level 2 of the divine level. After the 9 dragons' bloodline leveled up, another dragon force was born in his bloodline. There were a total of 2 dragon forces. At this time, 3 days had passed. 3 days later, Lu Ming walked out of his room and asked Bai Qi Shui if there was a suitable place to cultivate. Bai Qi Shui pondered for a moment and indeed thought of a suitable place. The ferocious beast secret realm. This was a secret realm controlled by the talisman puppet sect. It was considered a mid-sized realm. There were primeval forests everywhere, nurturing countless demonic beasts. These demonic beasts were very primitive. They might not have come into contact with humans, so they could not speak human language and could not transform into human form. They retained their most primitive beast form. This was undoubtedly very suitable for Lu Ming to cultivate. Lu Ming bade farewell to Bai Qi Shui and headed for the entrance of the ferocious beast secret realm. There were many people at the entrance. Many disciples of the talisman puppet sect and even the older generation entered to hunt demonic beasts. After all, an inscription master required various materials. In the ferocious beast secret realm, not only could one obtain materials from killing demonic beasts, one could also obtain blood essence. Tianyun, it's Tianyun Zongzi. Tianyun Zongzi. When Lu Ming arrived, many people hurriedly greeted Lu Ming. Lu Ming smiled and nodded. With Lu Ming's identity, it was natural for him to enter the ferocious beast secret realm. What came into view was an endless mountain range and an endless forest. The roars of demonic beasts could be heard from afar. It was a wild scene. Ha, this is a good place. It's very primitive. It should be a secret realm that has just been developed. I can smell the fragrance of countless spiritual herbs. Dandan stood on Lu Ming's shoulder. Her breasts were contracting and her small eyes were shining. In the surroundings, people flew forward continuously, disappearing into the desolate mountain. Let's go. Lu Ming stepped into the air and flew towards the wild mountains. Lu Ming did not stop and continued to fly deeper. According to Bai Qi Shui's introduction, the ferocious beast mystic realm was indeed a mystic realm that the talisman puppet sect had discovered not long ago. It had not been 10 years and there was limited development. The deeper he went, the stronger the strength of the demonic beasts. There were even many existences above the spiritual embryo realm. Soon, Lu Ming was 1,000,000 miles deep. He could already see the figures of others here. Roar! A giant lizard that was 7 to 8 meters tall and more than 30 meters long rushed out from the forest and pounced towards Lu Ming. A ferocious aura spread and emitted a powerful aura. Peak 9th level spiritual sea realm. Lu Ming smiled and condensed a long spear in his hand. With a swing, the long spear shot out with 4 types of realm of heaven and earth surrounding it. Puchi. The long spear directly pierced through the head of the giant lizard, leaving a bowl-sized bloody hole. The giant lizard roared and its huge body smashed heavily into the forest, crushing a large area of ancient trees. Roar! The 9 dragons' bloodline appeared and opened its mouth, aiming at the giant lizard. A terrifying devouring force erupted. Chapter 895. Under the devouring of the 9 dragons' bloodline, the giant lizard's corpse shriveled at a speed visible to the naked eye. In a few breaths, the giant lizard turned into a dried skeleton. All of its blood essence, demonic energy, and life essence were devoured and robbed by the 9 dragons' bloodline. Lu Ming felt that there were various kinds of energy in the 9 dragons' bloodline. How could this be? It actually devoured all of the energy of a giant lizard. This is too overbearing. Could it be because of the complete awakening of the 9 dragons' bloodline? Lu Ming was secretly shocked. Since his 9 dragons' bloodline was promoted to the divine grade and transformed into the 9 claws form, this was the first time he devoured a demonic beast's corpse. Previously, he only bought blood essence and devoured it. Previously, he only felt that the devouring power of the 9 dragons' bloodline had greatly increased, but he did not expect it to be so overbearing. Lu Ming, it seems that you have fully displayed the 9 dragons' talent. Dandan said. The 9 dragons' talent? Lu Ming was puzzled. Yes, the 9 dragons' strongest talent is to devour everything. All kinds of energy will be devoured and turned into one's own. It is extremely terrifying. Dandan explained. Devour everything and turn it into one's own. Lu Ming was secretly shocked. Immediately, Lu Ming sat down cross-legged and began to refine the bloodline. All kinds of energy in the 9 dragons' bloodline began to be refined by Lu Ming. Among them, the blood essence was still turned into bloodline power and absorbed by the 9 dragons' bloodline. The other kinds of energy such as blood essence, life essence, and demonic energy were all refined into true yuan and poured into Lu Ming's spirit sea. Immediately, Lu Ming's true yuan increased by a little. After a while, Lu Ming opened his eyes, revealing a look of pleasant surprise. This was too overbearing. The other kinds of energy were all turned into true yuan and blood essence to enhance the bloodline power. Not a single bit was wasted. In this way, wouldn't he even save on the ores when he cultivated in the future? Ha, I didn't expect the complete awakening of the 9 dragons' bloodline to have such a heaven-defying ability. Let's try hunting demonic beasts again. Lu Ming was overjoyed. His figure flickered as he began to hunt for demonic beasts. After killing several demonic beasts in a row, the result was the same. Whether it was their blood essence, demonic chi, or life essence, they were all devoured by the 9 dragons' bloodline and turned into his own energy. Amazing! If I wasn't trapped by the concept of heaven and earth, my cultivation would simply advance by leaps and bounds. Lu Ming pondered for a moment before continuing onward, searching for powerful demonic beasts to hunt. Not long after, they went a few 100,000 miles deeper. Roar! With a loud roar, space trembled as a giant staff smashed toward Lu Ming. No, it wasn't a giant stick. It was the trunk of a giant elephant. This mammoth was as big as a mountain and covered in fur. When it swung its trunk, space trembled, causing Lu Ming to feel immense pressure. Level 7 Demon Beast. This was a 7th grade demonic beast that was equivalent to the spirit embryo realm. Roar. The sound of a dragon's roar could be heard, and Lu Ming instantly unleashed a surge of dragon power. Dense scales appeared on Lu Ming's skin. Boom. With a punch, he circulated the suppressing Hell Heaven skill. When the fist and the mammoth's trunk collided, an earth-shattering boom erupted. Lu Ming felt an extremely powerful force surging toward him as his body involuntarily flew backward. However, the mammoth's trunk was also sent flying by him. The mammoth's roar was earth-shattering. Level 1 of Level 7. It's equivalent to Level 1 of Spirit Embryo Realm. I can fight it. Lu Ming stopped in midair as his eyes shone brightly. This mammoth had immense strength, but it wasn't ridiculously strong. Lu Ming could fight it. Swoosh. Lu Ming executed the 9 dragons' heaven trampling steps and rushed toward the mammoth like a stream of light. The mammoth roared and swung its trunk at an astonishing speed, whipping toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming's body shifted as he continuously changed his position in midair. He successfully dodged the mammoth's attack and appeared on top of its head, stomping down on it. Bam! With this stomp, Lu Ming unleashed all his strength and the suppressing Hell Heaven skill to the extreme. It was equivalent to an upper-grade half-god martial technique. With Lu Ming's stomp, it landed on the mammoth's head. Boom! With a violent roar, the mammoth's head caved in, accompanied by the sound of bones breaking. Roar! The mammoth wailed and whipped its trunk wildly at Lu Ming. Lu Ming's body moved and flew up into the sky. What a strong defense! Lu Ming exhaled deeply with a grave look in his eyes. This mammoth's defense was terrifyingly strong. Under his all-out attack, a 10,000-meter-tall mountain would crumble in an instant. It could sink the ground within a 100-mile radius. However, when it landed on the mammoth's head, it didn't instantly kill it. The mammoth roared and its eyes were bloodthirsty as it charged toward Lu Ming crazily. As it stepped on the ground cracked and countless ancient trees collapsed. It was a scene of doomsday. Whoosh, the mammoth swung its trunk and a gale swept up. A huge gully appeared on the ground as if a valley had appeared out of nowhere. Lu Ming took a step and dodged the mammoth's trunk before rushing toward its head. This mammoth had boundless strength and astonishing defense. However, its weakness was that it was relatively slow. However, its speed was slow compared to Lu Ming. If it was any other person in the spiritual ocean realm, they would have been smashed into pieces by the mammoth's trunk. Lu Ming appeared on the mammoth's head and stepped out once again. The moment he stepped out, a dragon's roar rang out as Lu Ming exploded with another burst of dragon force. With the 2 bursts of dragon force in his body exploding, Lu Ming's attack power reached an astonishing level. Bam! This time, the mammoth's head exploded and a huge hole appeared. The mammoth wailed and fell to the ground. Not long after, it stopped breathing. A mammoth that was equivalent to the first level of Spirit Embryo Realm was killed by Lu Ming. Whoosh! Lu Ming let out a breath and felt that there was only half of his vital essence left in his body. He revealed a bitter smile. Hell-suppressing heaven skill, when used at full power, exhausted a terrifying amount of vital essence. Just 2 strikes and half of the vital essence in his body had been extracted. My battle power on the martial path isn't any weaker than a martial arts practitioner at the first level of Spirit Embryo Realm. Of course, that's only compared to normal martial arts practitioners. Lu Ming pondered in his heart. The reason why he was able to kill the giant elephant in 2 moves was mainly because the speed of the concrete elephant was relatively slow. That was why he was able to hit its vital points twice in a row. If it had been someone else with faster speed, it would not have been so easy to kill it. Lu Ming was very clear about this point. Devour. Lu Ming controlled the 9 dragons' bloodline and the power of devouring burst out, enveloping the mammoth. The mammoth's body that was as big as a mountain started to shrivel rapidly. What astonishing energy, find a place to refine it. After devouring the mammoth's energy, Lu Ming's figure flashed and found a cave. He laid down a formation and started to refine it. Whoosh whoosh, billowing energy continuously poured into Lu Ming's body. The vital essence that he had expended was quickly recovered, but the energy was still pouring in continuously. It's too dense. I'm stuck at the concept and my cultivation can't break through. What should I do? Chapter 896. Physical body. Yes, let's try my physical body. Suddenly, Lu Ming had an idea. His physical body had been stuck at the peak of grade 7 for a long time, and he had been neglecting his cultivation. Now was a good time to try and see if the energy could improve his physical body. Whoosh whoosh, Lu Ming activated the myriad spirit battle body. Suddenly, the energy seemed to have found a vent and seeped into his physical body. Lu Ming's physical body began to wriggle and expand, and his bones made cracking sounds. Lu Ming could clearly feel that his physical body was becoming stronger and stronger at a rapid pace. It was beginning to improve. Half an hour later, the energy of the giant elephant was completely refined. Grade 8 physical body. Lu Ming smiled. As expected, the energy he devoured could also improve his physical body. How much should he save in the future? In the future, he could use the resources to buy other things, such as spiritual liquid and cultivating the tree of enlightenment. Lu Ming was about to laugh out loud. Legend has it that one of the basic conditions to break through to the martial emperor realm is to have a body at the peak of grade 9. Lu Ming had an idea. Many spiritual god realm experts would try their best to cultivate their physical body because it was impossible to break through to the martial emperor realm without a body at the peak of grade 9. Of course, Lu Ming was still far away from that. Now was not the time to think about it. It was enough to improve his physical body. The 9 dragons' bloodline did not improve. After refining the blood essence of the giant elephant, the 9 dragons' bloodline did not improve. It was the blood essence of a grade 7 demonic beast. Now, Lu Ming needed a huge amount of blood essence to improve his bloodline. If he were to buy it, he would not be able to afford it. Then, Lu Ming waved his hand and the tree of enlightenment appeared. Lu Ming sat in front of the tree of enlightenment and began to comprehend the realm of heaven and earth. Just like that, Lu Ming began his days of hard cultivation in the ferocious beast forest. Once he had an inspiration, he would stop cultivating. After a few days of cultivation, he would go hunting demonic beasts to hone his martial skills. The dandan would wander around the mountains in search of spiritual herbs. Time flew by in a blink of an eye. In the blink of an eye, it had already been 2 months and 20 days since Lu Ming entered the vicious beast's secret realm. There were only 10 days left before the Battle of Providence. Crash! A figure flew out of a clear lake and stood on the shore. Then, he sent out his quintessence, and not a single drop of water remained on his body. Then, he changed into a blue close-fitting robe. Suddenly, an elegant and graceful young master appeared on the shore. This person was, of course, Lu Ming, who had been cultivating in the ferocious beast secret realm for nearly 3 months. Now, Lu Ming was already 22 years old. His face was chiseled, and he was much more mature than before. He looked even more determined. It's time to go out. The Battle of Providence is finally coming. Lu Ming clenched his fists and felt the surging energy in his body. His eyes revealed a trace of anticipation. Dandan landed on Lu Ming's shoulder. Its mouth was filled with the fragrance of herbs. It said, "Ha, this seat has recovered a little. When this seat recovers a little more, watch how I'll torture those so-called outstanding talents. Also, that martial monarch De will be blown to death by this seat." Dandan even burped as it spoke. During this period of time, this fellow had found many high-grade spiritual herbs. He had been eating spiritual herbs every day and had been living a very comfortable life. Whoosh! Then, Lu Ming turned into a beam of light and headed for the exit of the ferocious beast forest. When Lu Ming came out of the ferocious beast forest, his expression changed. He took out a voice transmission jade talisman. Fatty is here. I nearly forgot. Lu Ming smiled. The moment he came out, he received a message from Fatty. It looked like he was blocked in the secret realm earlier. Immediately, Lu Ming flew out of the Yin and Yang mountain. At the edge of the Yin and Yang mountain, there was a huge array platform. This place was guarded by the experts of the Yin and Yang mountain, who kept the array running smoothly at all times. Seniors. Lu Ming clasped his fists. Oh, it's Tianyun Zongzi. Are you going out? An old man opened his eyes and said. I have a few friends who are participating in the Battle of Providence. I want to bring them in. Lu Ming arrived. Alright, take this token with you. You can freely enter and exit the Great Formation of the Two Elements Mountain. However, this token has restrictions. At most, you can bring in strong practitioners of the Spirit Embryo Realm. Stronger practitioners will be blocked. A token flew out of the old man's hand and Lu Ming caught it. Thank you, Senior. Lu Ming thanked him and stepped out. When he walked out of the Yin-Yang mountain, there was suddenly a layer of ripples in the space that was originally normal. Lu Ming took a step forward and stepped out. He flew forward and came to a small city thousands of miles away. He saw Fatty and of course, Wan Tingting. Lu Ming, I finally see you. We arrived 5 days ago and have been sending you messages, but there was no news. Fatty laughed when he saw Lu Ming. He wanted to give Lu Ming a bear hug, but he was almost kicked out by Lu Ming. Lu Ming. Wan Tingting walked over and greeted him with a smile. Tingting. Lu Ming nodded with a smile. He realized that both Fatty and Wan Tingting's auras were much stronger than before. They were much stronger than they were half a year ago. This was especially so for the Fatty. Lu Ming could sense a terrifying aura from him. This aura was hidden in the depths of the Fatty's body. Lu Ming could also sense a trace of it with his sensitive spiritual senses. This aura seemed to be able to destroy everything and was extremely sharp. It seemed that both Fatty and Wan Tingting had made great progress under the guidance of the demonic Sky Divine Emperor. After all, they were taught by the Divine Emperor himself. How many people in the world could do that? Fatty, you've awakened your third bloodline? Lu Ming asked. Yes, I've awakened it. Hee, Lu Ming, I'm not afraid of you now. Fatty grinned. Oh. What level is it? Lu Ming asked. It's a secret now. When the Battle of Providence starts, I promise you'll be shocked. Fatty chuckled with a mysterious look. Go away. Wan Tingting said with disdain. Lu Ming also pointed his middle finger at Fatty. Tingting, you've also awakened a divine bloodline, right? Lu Ming looked at Wan Tingting. He could also feel a powerful aura from Wan Tingting's body. Yes, I was lucky enough to awaken it with the help of Senior Demonic Sky. Third level divine bloodline. Wan Tingting said, and then a trace of aura flashed from her body. 7th level of the spiritual sea realm. Wan Tingting's cultivation had actually reached the 7th level of the spiritual sea realm. Lu Ming was secretly shocked. The demonic Sky Divine Emperor's methods were indeed unpredictable. In just half a year, not only did Wan Tingting successfully awaken a 3rd level divine bloodline, but her cultivation also broke through to the 7th level of the spiritual sea realm. Half a year ago, Wan Tingting's cultivation was only at the 3rd level of the spiritual sea realm. The speed of her progress could be said to be extremely shocking. This was the method of the Divine Emperor. It was difficult to predict. Chapter 897. Lu Ming was happy for them. After all, they were friends. Let's go to Liangyi Mountain. Lu Ming said. Then, the three of them headed towards Liangyi Mountain. They arrived at Liangyi Mountain after a while. With Lu Ming's token, the three of them entered Liangyi Mountain easily. Lu Ming returned to the array platform and returned the token to the old man. Then, he flew towards Yunpeak residence with Fatty and Ruantingting. "Hey, you're keeping a mistress in your house." As soon as they arrived at Yunpeak residence, Fatty yelled when he saw Bai Qi Shui. He did not call Lu Ming by his real name as he knew that Lu Ming was using a fake name. "Get lost." Lu Ming lifted his leg and kicked. Bai Qi Shui's face turned red. Fatty was stunned when he saw Bai Qi Shui's shy expression. Then, he looked at Lu Ming with admiration and said, "Brother, I'm impressed. I really admire you. You have beautiful women accompanying you wherever you go, and you're even living together. But you're too much of a playboy. How can I be worthy of Miss Xie? Look at me, I'm so devoted. I only have Tingting in my heart." After saying that, he blinked his small eyes and looked at Ruantingting ingratiatingly. "Get lost. Go away," Ruantingting said in disdain. Lu Ming gave a flying kick and the fatty's fat body was sent flying. He landed on his face like a dog eating shit. "Qi Shui, these two are my friends, Fatty Kong Jin and Ruantingting." Lu Ming introduced them to Bai Qi Shui. They were all young people, so they got familiar with each other after playing around for a while. Lu Ming arranged a courtyard for Fatty and Ruantingting on a mountain peak near Yunpeak residence. Liangyi Mountain became lively in the following days. The Battle of Providence was approaching. Almost all the elites had come out of seclusion and adjusted their mentality to prepare for the Battle of Providence. Even the other 13 Zongzi candidates had come out of seclusion. Days passed. 2 days before the Battle of Providence began, Bai Shijin sent someone to invite Lu Ming to meet him. When Lu Ming arrived at the Talisman Puppet Sect's meeting hall, he noticed that Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, Meng Chong, and other eminent elders of the Talisman Puppet Sect were all present. In the middle of the hall, there were 13 youths. There were both men and women among the 13 youths, and all of them had extraordinary bearings. It was obvious that they were giants among men. As soon as Lu Ming entered, the gazes of the 13 young men and women all turned to look at Lu Ming. Some were curious, some were peaceful, some were friendly, and some were not. They should be the other 13 Zongzi candidates. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat, and he curiously sized up the other party. These 13 people were ranked in the top 100 on the list of top 1,000 talents. Every one of them was extraordinary and stood at the peak of the eastern wilderness and the endless domain. "Tianyun, you're here," Bai Shijin said with a smile. Tianyun pays his respects to the seniors. Lu Ming bowed in front of the mountain. "Well, get to know each other. He's Tianyun." Bai Shijin nodded. "Junior brother Tianyun, I've heard a lot about you." A young man stepped forward with a gentle smile on his face. This young man had a head of silver hair that cascaded down to his waist. He was very handsome and always had a gentle smile on his face, which made it easy for people to have a good impression of him. A mysterious aura was emitted from his body all along, as if he was not a mortal and did not belong to the mortal world. The strangest thing was his eyes. His eyes were silver in color, and they were double pupils. Each of his eyes had double pupils, making him look incomparably sinister. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat, and he thought of someone. Silver-haired heavenly eyes, illusion. He was ranked 8th on the list of top 1,000 talents, and the only genius from the Talisman Puppet Sect to make it to the top 10. He was known as a peerless genius and the top inscriptionist among the younger generation in the eastern wilderness. He was extremely talented, and it was said that his heavenly eyes could see through all formations and inscriptions. It was extremely magical. Cough, cough, cough. Before Lu Ming could speak, Bai Shijin coughed and said, "Huan Zhen, don't call Tianyun junior brother. You can call each other by their names." "Ah." Huan Zhen and the other sky prides looked at Bai Shijin in surprise. Bai Shijin's face was slightly red, and the other founding elders were a little embarrassed. Lu Ming was amused. He understood what Bai Shijin and the rest meant. Lu Ming was his master. He was Lian Cang and his seniority was very high. Even Bai Shijin had to address him as martial uncle. But now, Huan Zhen called Lu Ming junior brother. Wasn't that taking advantage of Bai Shijin? He knew Lu Ming well, but Huan Zhen and the others did not. They all looked at each other. Well, you young people get to know each other quickly. Let's talk about business. Bai Shijin coughed and changed the topic. The Battle of Providence is about to begin. But you should know that our talisman puppet sect is the weakest among the 4 superpowers in the Eastern Wilderness. The number of geniuses is decreasing year by year, while the other superpowers, such as the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and the Heavenly Corpse sect, are getting stronger and stronger. In the past 1,000 years, my talisman puppet sect has always been at the bottom in every battle of Providence and has been ruthlessly suppressed. The amount of Providence we obtain has become increasingly less and the strength of our sect has also become increasingly weaker. Therefore, this time, the first thing you must do is to be united and not fight amongst yourselves. Your strength is already weak to begin with. If you still fight amongst yourselves, the final result is very likely to be complete annihilation. Bai Shijin's eyes were bright as he warned them seriously. We will remember. Huan Zhen, Lu Ming, and the others solemnly replied. Yes. Bai Shijin nodded his head in satisfaction and continued, the Battle of Providence occurs once every 20 years, but the area you enter each time is different. It is truly incomparably mysterious, but there is a common point. Every time, there is a great opportunity, and when you obtain the opportunity, you will also obtain Providence. This is your chance. If you can obtain a great opportunity, you may be able to suppress the geniuses of your generation, dominate the Eastern Wilderness, and lead the talisman puppet sect to rise. Bai Shijin's voice was filled with temptation, causing all the young people present to clench their fists tightly, filled with anticipation. However, Bai Shijin's voice immediately changed as he said, however, the Battle of Providence is also known as the burial ground of geniuses. Every time, there will be a large number of geniuses who will die in it. However, this world is so cruel. The strong will become stronger, and the weak will only be stepped on. So you must be mentally prepared. However, the 14 people including Lu Ming all had resolute gazes and did not waver. They were all peerless geniuses. Since they had embarked on the path of cultivation, they would bravely advance until they reached the peak. There was no reason for them to retreat. They were filled with confidence in themselves. Good, it's good that you are confident. Du Songjue, who had not spoken until now, opened his mouth. I have one more thing to tell all of you. Du Songjue pondered for a moment and continued, Master Liao Cang once said that the world we are in is called the Yuan realm. The Yuan realm is vast and boundless, and no one knows how wide it is. Not to mention Emperor realm experts, even those stronger than that do not know its boundaries. Chapter 898. Du Songjue's words caused the hearts of the young people present to tremble, and they were all dumbstruck. Our divine wilderness continent is just a drop in the ocean. There are many other continents like the divine wilderness continent overseas, and some are even hundreds or thousands of times bigger than the divine wilderness continent. A young man exclaimed, his eyes wide and mouth agape. Huan Zhen and the others were the same. They were too shocked. In the past, they thought that the divine wilderness continent was the center of the world. Although they knew that there might be other continents overseas, they thought that having 2 or 3 similar continents was already shocking enough. But Du Songjue used the word many, and the fact that there were hundreds or thousands of times bigger than the divine wilderness continent was unbelievable. The divine wilderness continent was vast and boundless. There were hundreds of regions in the eastern wilderness. It was vast and boundless. The southern underworld, the northern plains, and the western desert were also vast and not smaller than the eastern wilderness. The middle continent was said to be even more vast and full of outstanding people. There were so many other continents overseas. Everyone was stunned. Right now, Lu Ming was the only one who was slightly better. The mid-autumn moon might have been taken away by people overseas. He had once entered a small island in the heavenly realm by chance and widened his horizons. He knew that the world was vast beyond his imagination. That's right. If you're not an emperor, it's difficult to leave the divine wilderness continent and go overseas, so we don't know. Master Liaozong once said that the War of Providence doesn't only involve the divine wilderness continent. According to Master, the entire Yuan realm and other continents will have a War of Providence. Du Songjue said again. This time, even Lu Ming was dumbfounded. Not only the divine wilderness continent, but also the other continents overseas would have a War of Providence. That was too shocking. What was the reason for it? How could it be carried out in such a vast area at the same time? Or rather, were the wars of providence all connected? Was it the natural operation of the heavenly Tao, or was it controlled by someone? If it was controlled by someone, who had such terrifying power to control the vast territory of the Yuan realm at the same time? At that moment, Lu Ming's mind was filled with thoughts. Master once said that if you stand out in the War of Providence and achieve a certain result, you'll have unexpected gains. Du Songjue said. A certain result? What result? Lu Ming and the others were surprised. This, I don't know either. Master didn't explain it in detail back then, but it seems like it's extremely difficult to reach that standard. In short, you just have to do your best. Alright, I've said what I needed to say. You can go now. Prepare yourself. Lu Ming, Huan Zhen, and the rest nodded and left the hall. After Lu Ming left the main hall, he flew directly to Baibao Pavilion to purchase some items before returning to Cloud Peak Residence. Big Brother Yen. Near Cloud Peak Residence, Lu saw Yen. And after not seeing each other for half a year, Yen Kuangtu finally appeared. Yen Kuangtu smiled. At this moment, Yen Kuangtu's body flashed, and the figure of Supreme Nine Suns appeared. Lu Ming bowed. He was happy for Supreme Nine Suns. Lu Ming, how's the preparation for the War of Providence? Supreme Nine Suns smiled. It's going well. Lu Ming nodded. Yes, with your current cultivation and combat strength, it's still very difficult for you to stand out. However, the Battle of Providence will last for a year. That's enough time for you to rise up. Therefore, you have to make good use of this year's time. Only then will you be able to surpass everyone else in the Battle of Providence. Supreme Nine Suns said. For example, Supreme Nine Suns and Yen Kuangtu had participated in the War of Providence back then and obtained great opportunities. Lu Ming nodded seriously. He knew that his current battle strength and cultivation were more than enough to deal with ordinary sky prides. However, there was still a gap between him and the top 100 geniuses on the list of 1,000 geniuses. Lu Ming, we just came back to see you. We won't see you off in the War of Providence. Master's recovery has reached a critical moment. We'll set off again soon and leave Yinyang Mountain. Yen Kuangtu said. There's no need to see me off. Senior Nine Suns' recovery is more important. Lu Ming nodded quickly. Then, the three of them chatted for a while. Supreme Nine Suns and Yen Kuangtu mainly talked about their experiences in the War of Providence, hoping that it would be helpful to Lu Ming. They chatted for 2 hours before Yen Kuangtu and Supreme Nine Suns left. Lu Ming returned to Yun Peak Residence. Time flew by. A few days passed in the blink of an eye. The War of Providence finally arrived. There was a huge boulder behind Yinyang Mountain. On the boulder, there was a huge round stone covered with mysterious carvings. The stone gave off a heavy and ancient feeling. In the past, this place was forbidden to the talisman puppet sect. Other than some elders, ordinary people were not allowed to enter. However, there were now thousands of people gathered here. Upon reaching this place, Lu Ming realized that this was the place to participate in the Battle of Providence. The entrance to the War of Providence was in a very mysterious place. No one could enter from other places. They had to go through a special passage. The Talisman Puppet Sect, Emperor Heaven Divine Palace, Heavenly Corpse Sect, and Sky Monster Valley all had this special passage. Usually, this passage was useless and had no effect. Only when the War of Providence started, this passage would automatically activate. Whichever force you entered through the passage represented which force you participated in the War of Providence. Your future achievements would be credited to that force and luck would descend. This time, the Talisman Puppet Sect sent thousands of people to participate in the War of Providence. Other than some true geniuses, they also selected many experts with high cultivation from the younger generation. After these young experts entered, they could assist those geniuses. Moreover, who knew who would be lucky enough to obtain a great opportunity and gather great luck? No one could be sure. Therefore, there were more or less benefits to having more people enter. Lu Ming, Fatty, Wan Tingting, Bai Qi, and Shui stood together. Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and some elders stood in front and stared at the huge round stone. Legend had it that when a force became an overlord and a ruler was born, the ancient city of Providence would fly out such a stone and descend on that force. It meant that the force was qualified to send people to participate in the War of Providence. When a force was completely weakened, this stone would automatically fly away. This also meant that the force had completely declined. Buzz! Suddenly, the round stone shook. The carvings on it started to flicker with light. A mysterious aura circulated. Chapter 899. Alright, everyone, follow me. Bai Shijin shouted and stepped into the vortex. Swoosh! Swoosh! Many figures flew up and stepped into the vortex. With a flash of light, the people who stepped into the vortex disappeared. Let's go. Lu Ming and the rest followed the crowd. They flew into the vortex and disappeared. Finally, Du Songjue and a few other doyens also stepped in. With a flash of light, Lu Ming and the rest found themselves on a huge platform. It was a huge platform made of stone. There were patterns on it, and behind it was a huge wall that blocked the way out. There was a vortex above their heads. This was the spatial tunnel that they had used to enter. After Lu Ming and the rest went to participate in the battle, Bai Shijin and the rest went out from there. The direction in front seemed to be empty. It was an endless abyss, and there was a huge door of light on the other side of the abyss. That's the entrance to the Battle of Providence. Bai Shijin's voice rang out as he pointed at the door of light on the other side of the abyss. Lu Ming was surrounded by disciples of the Talisman Puppet Sect. They had gathered together. Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the rest had also entered. The people from the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace, Heavenly Corpse Sect, and Sky Demon Valley have also arrived. Fatty said softly from the side. Lu Ming looked over. He saw the people from the other three forces on the platform. Like the Talisman Puppet Sect, all the forces had gathered together. So many people. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. He found that there were more than 10,000 people from the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. The Heavenly Corpse Sect also had close to 10,000 people. The Sky Demon Valley had fewer people, but there were still more than 3,000 people. How could this be? How could there be so many geniuses in the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace? The Emperor Heaven Divine Palace was considered a supreme talent. The previous list of top 1,000 talents and the recent rising supreme talents added up to less than 800 people. Including some young experts, there were at most 3,000 to 4,000 people. how could there be so many people? Tianyun, I heard that the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and the Heavenly Corpse sect don't have that many supreme talents and young experts, but they will train a group of men of sacrifice. Bai Qi Shui said softly. Death warriors? Lu Ming was puzzled. That's right, loyalists. Do you see that group of black-robed people behind the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and carrying all kinds of weapons? The Emperor Heaven Divine Palace uses a special method to bring out the full potential of some young people. Before the age of 30, their strength will soar crazily and enter an extremely powerful realm. But the consequence is that those young people's potential will be completely exhausted, and their lifespans will be greatly shortened. Their minds will become numb, and they will only know to obey orders without fear of death. Their goal is to participate in the battle of providence and assist the other geniuses to obtain opportunities and providence. Bai Qi Snow explained. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. For the sake of the War of Providence, these major factions could be said to have exhausted all their means. Look, those people from the Heavenly Corpse sect who are wrapped in blood-red robes are also death warriors. Our Talisman Puppet sect cultivates the Tao of inscription. We don't have such an outrageous secret technique, so we won't do it. The Heavenly Demon Valley's demon tribe is very arrogant and won't do it either. Therefore, there are very few of them. Bai Qi Snow said. Lu Ming nodded. He understood. These death warriors were nothing more than young people who were cultivated with a secret technique. Their bone ages were below 30 years old, and they were used to participate in the Battle of Providence. Lu Ming stood in the crowd and scanned the three major factions. In the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace area, he saw the 6 great ancient families and the 6 supreme martial artists. In each faction, there were dozens of young men and women who had extraordinary auras and unfathomable strength. Needless to say, these people were all at the top of the list of top 1,000 talents, or at the same level. Lu Ming was sizing them up, and they were sizing them up too. Ha, Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, I didn't expect the Talisman Puppet sect to still dare to participate in the Battle of Providence. Aren't you afraid that this generation of young people will die? A burst of laughter suddenly sounded from the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. Lu Ming looked in the direction of the voice and recognized that it was the Wang family head, a supreme martial artist who had almost been killed by Lu Ming with the Divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron. Wang Xingtian. Bai Shijin's face darkened and he snorted coldly, not saying a word. Well, the Talisman Puppet sect is getting worse with each generation. If this generation of people die in there, you old fellows won't be able to hold on for long. The Talisman Puppet sect will be destroyed sooner or later. The Wang family head, Wang Xingtian, continued to sneer as his gaze swept across the Talisman Puppet sect. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He retracted his aura and moved, wanting to use the figures of others to block his body. But in the next moment, he realized that a cold gaze had landed on him. It was Wang Xingtian's gaze. At this moment, Wang Xingtian's eyes were filled with terrifying killing intent as he stared at Lu Ming. Lu Ming, it's you. I didn't expect you to run to the Talisman Puppet sect. Wang Xingtian shouted angrily. Back then, during the Battle of Nine Dragon City, he was almost smashed to death by Lu Ming using the Divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron. A prime of his generation had ended up in such a state and he had lost all his face. He hated Lu Ming deeply. With his cultivation, even if Lu Ming changed his appearance and retracted his aura, he would still be able to see through him with a single glance. Whoosh! Whoosh! Following Wang Xingtian's voice, everyone from the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace looked over at the Talisman Puppet sect. Lu Ming, who in the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace didn't know this name. Not only the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace, but the other factions also looked over. What? Lu Ming. Lu Ming is among us. Most of the people from the Talisman Puppet sect were shocked as they sized each other up. Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the others' faces darkened. Little bastard, don't think you can hide from me by hiding in the crowd. You're actually in the Talisman Puppet sect. Let's see how you'll die. Wang Xingtian sneered. The other 5 supreme beings' eyes turned cold as they looked at Lu Ming. They had also lost face in the battle that day. 6 supreme beings had joined forces, but they still couldn't take down a junior like Lu Ming. Lu Ming? Who's Lu Ming? Bai Qi Shui's eyes widened as he scanned the surroundings. Hide? Why should I hide? What can you do to me here? Lu Ming spoke. His clear voice resounded throughout the entire place. After saying this, he strode out and arrived outside the crowd. This place was the entrance to the Battle of Providence. It was extremely mysterious and had a strong suppressive effect. The older one was, the stronger the suppression. For example, Wang Xingtian, a supreme being who had lived for thousands of years, could only display the cultivation of the spiritual embryo realm. What did he have to fear? This was something that everyone knew. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come here openly. Yan Kuangtu and Supreme Nine Sons wouldn't be at ease and didn't follow him. Once they entered this place, those experts wouldn't be able to display much of their strength. Lu Ming didn't want to be discovered at first, as he only wanted to avoid some trouble. However, since he was discovered, he might as well stand out. At this moment, everyone's eyes were gathered on Lu Ming. Tianyun. You're Lu Ming. Bai Qishue widened his eyes and was dumbfounded. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Chapter 900. It was no wonder that Tianyun was so powerful and his martial arts cultivation was so profound. It turned out that he was Lu Ming. Bai Qi could not help but recall that she often praised Lu Ming in front of him. She even said that if she wanted to find someone she liked, she should find a peerless genius like Lu Ming. Wasn't she saying it in front of Lu Ming himself? Upon thinking of this, Bai Qi's face flushed red and she felt extremely shy. This bad guy, he didn't tell me. Bai Qi's face was as red as an apple. The other young people in the Talisman Puppet sect also looked at Lu Ming in astonishment before they came to a realization. It turned out that Tianyun was Lu Ming. No wonder his talent was so high and so powerful. He was actually the Lu Ming who caused the great battle in Nine Dragon City, the one who pulled out the divine Nine Dragon Cauldron, the one who fought against the Primes, and the one who caused Martial Monarch De to intervene. No wonder. In that case, everything would make sense. Since Tianyun was Lu Ming, it would be normal for him to create those records and surpass everyone in the Talisman Puppet sect competition to obtain first place. It was because he was Lu Ming. Little bastard, I'll kill you now. Flames danced on Wang Xingtian's body as a powerful aura burst out. However, his aura was severely suppressed and he only had the aura of the spiritual embryo realm. Wang Xingtian, this is not Nine Dragon City. Bai Shijin stepped forward and blocked Wang Xingtian. Mental energy spread out from his glabella. Bai Shijin, your Talisman Puppet sect dares to go against my Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace? Are you courting death? Wang Xingtian shouted with cold killing intent. He, Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace has been annexing my Talisman Puppet sect's territory. Haven't you always been going against me? Bai Shijin sneered. Wang Xingtian's face turned ugly. If they were outside, he would have attacked immediately. The Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace had more primes than the Talisman Puppet sect, and they were more than enough to defeat the Talisman Puppet sect. However, in this place, he was unable to display the strength of a prime. Even an ordinary elder of the Talisman Puppet sect would be able to block him. If they were to fight, the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace might suffer a great loss. Good, very good. Talisman Puppet sect, let's see how many people from your Talisman Puppet sect can come out alive in this battle of karmic luck. Wang Xingtian said coldly. Then, he instructed the sky prides of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and shouted, everyone from the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace, listen up. In the battle of Providence, if you encounter anyone from the Talisman Puppet sect, do not show mercy. Kill. Yes. The geniuses of the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace replied loudly, their eyes filled with killing intent. Also, pay special attention to Lu Ming. If you see him, you must kill him without mercy. I will reward whoever kills him handsomely. Wang Xingtian said. We must kill Lu Ming. The Sky Pride of the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace replied. A cold killing intent spread out towards Lu Ming. Some powerful geniuses had unfathomable gazes. Are you Lu Ming? At this moment, a loud roar came from the direction of the Sky Monster Valley. A burly man in red armor looked coldly at Lu Ming. That's the supreme being of the Flood Dragon tribe. Someone recognized the burly man. My nephew, Alcuin, was killed by you. Good, very good. The Flood Dragon Supreme Being turned around and looked at the Sky Prides of the Sky Monster Valley. He shouted, this kid killed my nephew. If you see him in the Battle of Providence, kill him without mercy. I will reward whoever kills him handsomely. Ha, he's mine. I must kill him. Instantly, the Sky Prides of the Sky Monster Valley looked at Lu Ming with killing intent in their eyes. Before the Battle of Providence had even begun, the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and the Sky Monster Valley had already targeted Lu Ming. All of them wanted to kill Lu Ming. As for the Heavenly Corpse sect, they were waiting to watch a good show. Bai Qi, Xue, Wan Tingting, Fatty, and the others looked at Lu Ming with worried expressions. Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the others looked solemn. They had not expected things to turn out this way. This battle would be very difficult for Lu Ming. Lu Ming's gaze was calm. He recalled that he had killed Alcuin, a Sky Pride of the Flood Dragon Supreme Being, during the Three Great Forces exchange in Nine Dragon City. His gaze swept across the people from the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and the Sky Monster Valley as he said, since you want to kill me, you must be prepared to be killed by me. His voice was also very calm, but it revealed a strong sense of confidence, as well as a sharp killing intent. Shameless boasting. Who do you think you are? How dare you say that you will kill us? A young man from the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace sneered. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. He recognized this person. Jiang Taichong. Back then, he had won the Battle of the Heavenly King list, but he had been stopped by this person. This person was ranked in the top 100 of the list of top 1,000 talents. Just a clown. Another voice rang out from the crowd of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. Soon after, a young man walked out with a woman in his hand. Wang Yan. Lu Ming also recognized him. After the Battle of the Heavenly King list, Wang Yan and Jiang Taichong had stopped them. At that time, the two of them were high and mighty, looking down on Lu Ming and the others. They said that the Battle of the Heavenly King list was just a child's game and did not take Lu Ming seriously at all. Now, they also did not take Lu Ming seriously. Wang Haoxian. What made Lu Ming's eyes flash was that the person Wang Yan was holding was Wang Haoxian. Wang Haoxian's face was pale. Lu Ming, when you were in Nine Dragon City, Wang Haoxian seemed to be very close to you. This bastard dared to betray the Wang family. Although he has been punished, it is far from enough. Do you see this? Wang Yan pointed at a collar around Wang Haoxian's neck and said to Lu Ming. A cold light flashed in Lu Ming's eyes, but he did not speak. This collar will explode at any time. At that time, this bastard will be crushed into pieces. This time, in the Battle of Providence, I will crush this bastard in front of you. Wang Yan said coldly. Killing intent flashed in Lu Ming's eyes and he said coldly, Wang Yan, I will kill you in the Battle of Providence. Ha, you are indeed an adulterous couple. You want to kill me. There is no need to wait until the Battle of Providence. Lu Ming, I will make sure you can't enter the Battle of Providence. Wang Yan sneered. In an instant, the atmosphere at the scene became very heavy. The path is going to be cleared. At this moment, someone suddenly shouted. Everyone turned to look at the abyss. If they wanted to enter the light door on the other side of the abyss and participate in the Battle of Providence, they would have to cross the abyss. However, the abyss had a terrifying suction force and it was impossible to fly. If anyone tried to fly, they would definitely fall into the abyss and die on the spot. They could only wait for the path to be cleared and walk forward. At this moment, everyone saw that in front of the abyss, there were many stone platforms floating in the air and flying over. The stone platforms were only about 1 meter in radius and were separated from each other. They floated in the air above the abyss and extended to the other side, forming many paths. They would have to fly from these platforms to the other side. Soon, the paths were formed and the air above the abyss was filled with platforms. There is only 1 hour left. After that, the platforms will collapse and the path will end. Someone said. The beginning of every Battle of Providence was similar. It was just that the world behind the light door was different every time. For a moment, the 4 factions did not move. Lu Ming, I will kill you on this path. Wang Yan licked his lips with killing intent. Chapter 901. Take turns. The weak will go first. Bai Shijin and Du Songjue began to instruct. Someone from the Talisman Puppet sect started to move. Inscriptions flashed as they leaped onto the floating round platform. Then, they jumped onto another round platform and moved forward. The people from the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace, the Heavenly Corpse sect, and the Sky Demon Valley also moved. However, like the Talisman Puppet sect, they also moved in batches. The weak would go first while the strong stayed behind to restrain their opponents. If the 4 forces swarmed forward, there would definitely be a huge battle. Now was not the time for a showdown. Even if they killed their opponents now, there would not be much benefit. The showdown would only begin after entering the light door. The people from the 4 forces moved forward one after another. The people in front had already crossed the abyss and rushed into the light door, disappearing. Lu Ming did not move. Many people from the Sky Demon Valley and the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace were staring at him with murderous intent. Time passed quickly. More and more people entered the door of light. Soon, half an incense stick's time had passed. Ah! Suddenly, a horrified roar came from the abyss. Everyone looked over and saw a young man standing on a round platform. His face was filled with horror. His body seemed to be under a terrifying pressure and was crumbling inch by inch. Gu Huaxiu. Lu Ming's expression changed as he recognized the young man. Before Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing went to the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution to obtain the Heavenly Demon Fruit, they met Gu Huaxiu in the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution. At that time, Gu Huaxiu seemed to have been possessed by someone. They had even joined forces to fight the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution's ancestor. After not seeing him for a while, Gu Huaxiu had reached a shocking level. The aura he emitted seemed to be in the 9th layer of the spiritual sea realm. However, at this moment, he was under a terrifying suppression. Ah! He roared as green light spread out from his body. Above his head, an illusory figure appeared, struggling crazily. However, there seemed to be a terrifying force in the air that blasted towards him. No! The illusory figure let out a horrified roar. In the next moment, it collapsed with a bang. As the illusory figure collapsed, Gu Huaxiu's body also turned into ashes, disappearing forever. A mere spiritual god wants to possess someone to participate in the Battle of Providence? You're courting death. In the Heavenly Corpse sect, an old man sneered. Within the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace, the few primes were laughing coldly. With their cultivations, they were naturally able to notice with a single glance that Gu Huaxiu had been possessed by a domain-enlightened spirit god. However, the Battle of Providence had an age limit. Not only was there a limit to one's bone age, there was a limit to one's soul as well. If one tried to impersonate someone, it would be impossible to do so. One would be found out and killed immediately. Otherwise, overlord forces like the Emperor Heaven Deity Palace and the Heavenly Corpse sect would have plenty of spiritual gods. They were fully capable of seizing the bodies of young spiritual gods and entering the battle of providence. However, they didn't do so, which was enough to explain everything. If he wanted to use a young body to sneak in, he would be courting death. Therefore, Lu Ming did not bring Dandan with him. This was just a small interlude. The four factions continued to move forward. Time was running out. Wang Yan continued to stare coldly at Lu Ming. Humph, could it be that Lu Ming is scared and doesn't plan to participate in the Battle of Providence? A powerful supreme talent from the Emperor Heaven Deity Palace said coldly. Given his talent, he will probably participate. Otherwise, he will never be able to compete with the other supreme talents in the future. Another person said. Humph, time is running out. I'll make a move first. A powerful supreme talent couldn't help but make a move. Lu Ming remained motionless. In the Sky Monster Valley and the Emperor Heaven Deity Palace, many supreme talents looked at Lu Ming with murderous intent and made a move. Lu Ming is mine. I'll definitely kill him. You guys make a move first. Wang Yan looked at the other supreme talents and said. Alright, I'll leave him to you then. More supreme talents from the Emperor Heaven Deity Palace made a move. Their figures were like lightning as they flew toward the light gate on the other side of the abyss. Some of the 13 Zongzi candidates from the Talisman Puppet sect also made a move. Tianyun, no, Lu Ming, take care of yourself. Huan Zhen looked at Lu Ming and stepped forward. Fatty, you guys make a move first. Lu Ming looked at Fatty, Huan Tingting, Bai Qi, and Xue. No, we have to make a move together. Fatty said. You guys make a move first. They can't do anything to me. If we make a move together, we'll all be in danger. Lu Ming said. In the end, Fatty and the rest had no choice but to make a move first. There were people rushing into the light gate and disappearing. 30 minutes was almost up. All the supreme talents from the Heavenly Corpse sect and the Sky Monster Valley had already entered. Wang Haoxian was also brought in by the Wang family. Lu Ming was the only one from the Talisman Puppet sect. In the Emperor Heaven Deity Palace, only Wang Yan and a dozen men of sacrifice with long swords were left. They stayed behind to deal with Lu Ming together. Apart from them, there were a few big shots left. Little bastard, let's see how you'll die. Unless you don't make a move. Wang Xingtian sneered. Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the rest looked worried. The atmosphere of the place instantly turned heavy. Time passed rapidly, and the time it took an incense stick to burn was almost up. Wang Yan waved his hand, and a few men of sacrifice rushed forward. There were 9 men of sacrifice remaining beside him. His eyes flickered, and he was ready to make a move at any time. If Lu Ming did not make a move, he would not stay here to accompany Lu Ming and miss out on the opportunity. Let's go. In the end, Wang Yan could not help but rush into the abyss. Bang! All of a sudden, one of the round platforms exploded. Time was up. Once the time was up, the round platform would explode. At this moment, Lu Ming made his move. His figure rushed toward the round platform at lightning speed. The moment Lu Ming made his move, the 9 men of sacrifice also made their move and rushed toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming stepped on a round platform and his figure moved forward at high speed. Just as he stepped on the round platform crumbled. Lu Ming rushed forward, racing against the speed of the round platform's collapse. In the blink of an eye, Lu Ming was halfway to the abyss. Lu Ming, die. At this moment, Wang Yan, who was rushing forward, suddenly turned around and punched at Lu Ming. This punch was extremely terrifying. It emitted a terrifying heat that seemed to be able to burn everything. Level 3 Essence of Heaven and Earth, Complete Spiritual Sea Realm. In an instant, Lu Ming sensed Wang Yan's strength. Wang Yan was ranked 98th on the list of top 1,000 talents. It was said that he had awakened a level 5 divine bloodline. Coupled with his cultivation at the complete spiritual sea realm and level 3 essence of heaven and earth, this punch was extremely terrifying. Lu Ming did not hesitate to unleash his dragon power. He unleashed 3 streams of dragon power at once. His body was covered with a layer of scales. He activated the Purgatory Heaven skill and punched out. Boom! With a violent tremor, Lu Ming felt a terrifying force rushing toward him. His body shook violently, and his body was blocked and he retreated. He retreated into the void. A terrifying gravitational force came from the abyss, trying to tear Lu Ming down. Chapter 902. At the crucial moment, Lu Ming waved his hand and a true yuan ribbon shot forward, wrapping around a round platform. With a pull, his body flew forward. As for Wang Yan, after exchanging a punch with Lu Ming, he borrowed the force and flew forward. You guys, kill him. Wang Yan's voice rang out as he ordered the men of sacrifice. He didn't dare to stay any longer, or else he would fall into the abyss. Shua! Shua! The men of sacrifice who set out first turned back and charged at Lu Ming. The other men of sacrifice did the same. The strength of these men of sacrifice was extremely terrifying. They were all at the peak of the 9th level of the spiritual sea realm. They weren't afraid of death and only knew how to follow orders. Xiao! A terrifying sword light burst out and slashed at Lu Ming's true yuan ribbon, while the other sword lights slashed at Lu Ming. In an instant, Lu Ming was caught in a sure-death situation. Wang Xingtian and the others all smiled. Ha, Lu Ming, go to hell. In front of him, Wang Yan laughed heartily. His figure was like lightning as he instantly dashed across the abyss and into the light door. Pang! The round platform that Lu Ming tied with his true yuan ribbon also collapsed. And in front of Lu Ming, there were still a few men of sacrifice. You're courting death. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold as the 9 dragons' bloodline appeared. On the 9 dragons' bloodline, there were 4 golden chakras that were extremely dazzling. In the next few months, Lu Ming cultivated in the ferocious beast's secret realm and used the blood essence of the beasts he hunted to upgrade the 9 dragons' bloodline. He didn't upgrade the suppressing prison steel bloodline for the time being. The main reason was that if the suppressing prison steel bloodline was upgraded to the 4th level of the divine tier, the power of the suppressing prison heaven skill would be equivalent to a true low-tier divine tier martial skill. With his current true yuan, it was impossible to use it. The suppressing prison heaven skill was equivalent to the peak of the upper tier demigod tier martial skill. The consumption of true yuan was already terrifying. There was no need to upgrade it for the time being. The devouring ability of the 9 dragons' bloodline, which had reached level 4 high god realm, was extremely frightening. With a loud roar, the devouring ability of the 9 dragons' bloodline burst forth, enveloping the dozen or so men of sacrifice. Suddenly, under everyone's shocked gazes, the blood essence, blood, and true yuan of the death warriors were completely devoured, turning them into a dozen dried-up corpses. Then, he took a step forward and a formation appeared in the air. Lu Ming stepped on the formation and his body shot forward like a rocket. After flying for a while, he took another step and another array formation appeared in the void. Lu Ming repeated the same trick. He stepped on the array formation and continued to move forward. After a few times, Lu Ming crossed the abyss and flew to the other side, arriving at the Gate of Light. At this time, all of the round platforms in the sky above the abyss had collapsed. Lu Ming slowly turned around, looking at Wang Xingtian and the others. I'll kill every single member of the Wang clan that I see. Also, the others better not provoke me. Otherwise, I'll kill them all as well. After saying this, Lu Ming turned around and stepped into the gate of light, disappearing from sight. That damned bastard. He can actually carve a formation in the void. How is that possible? Wang Xingtian was enraged, his eyes filled with disbelief. Carving a formation in the void was something that only a level 7 inscription master could do. How could Lu Ming be a level 7 inscription master? How could his inscription Dao be so strong? How terrifying would the combination of such a formidable Dao of inscription and a formidable cultivation in the martial Dao be? He couldn't help but worry for the Wang clan's geniuses. This time, it's still unknown who will kill who. Bai Shijin sneered. Wang Xingtian looked at Bai Shijin with a cold gaze and said, "Your talisman puppet sect is really bold to protect Lu Ming and even give him resources for his cultivation. Just wait for the Emperor Sky Divine Palace's revenge." Without the help of the talisman puppet sect, he didn't believe that Lu Ming's inscription Dao could reach such a level. "I'll keep you company." Bai Shijin was extremely tough. After saying that, he moved and left through the teleportation vortex. Du Songjue and the rest did the same. After that, the people from the Emperor Sky Divine Palace, Sky Corp Sect, and Sky Demon Valley left through the teleportation vortex and returned to their respective sections. The Battle of Providence would last for a year. In the end, if the ancient city of Providence could appear, the final battle would be held and the final ranking would be determined. Providence would then descend from the ancient city of Providence. Now, the people outside had to wait. Lu Ming stepped into the light door. In the next moment, he realized that he had appeared in a forest. Ancient trees towered into the sky. At a glance, they were all trees that could only be hugged by a dozen people. What a rich spiritual chi of heaven and earth. Also, the intent realm I can sense here is so clear. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with shock when he sensed it. He realized that the spiritual chi of heaven and earth here was unimaginably rich. It was almost tangible. The milky white mist in the surroundings was formed by the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. A casual breath of the spiritual chi of heaven and earth here was equivalent to the sum of the spiritual chi of a supreme-grade spiritual crystal. Moreover, the intent realm here was also very clear. It was dozens of times clearer than the outside world. Cultivating in such an environment would allow one's cultivation to improve by leaps and bounds. This was simply a sacred place for cultivation. It was no wonder that everyone wanted to participate in the Battle of Providence. Even if there were no other opportunities, just cultivating here for a year was a great opportunity. Let's refine the blood essence energy first. Lu Ming immediately waved his fingers and engraved a large array around him. His fingertips emitted a blue spiritual fire. Lu Ming was still a level 6 inscriber and had not broken through to level 7. When he was at the observatory, he had lit up 9 blue spiritual lights. A few months later, he had successfully lit up the 10th blue spiritual light. He was now at level 6 and had attained perfection. All 6 levels were at perfection. How strong was his spiritual fire? How strong was his spiritual power? It was even stronger than some inscribers who had just broken through to level 7. Therefore, when Lu Ming was at level 6, he could perform an array in the void and engrave the array in the void. This was not something that Wang Xingtian had expected. He had thought that Lu Ming was a level 7 inscriber. In an instant, a huge illusory array was engraved. Lu Ming sat cross-legged and began to refine the blood essence and vital essence of the men of sacrifice that he had just devoured. However, as soon as he refined them, Lu Ming suddenly opened his eyes. There was shock in his eyes. This time, he realized that the 9 dragons' bloodline had not only devoured blood essence, vital essence, and blood, but also intent runes. Yes, the 9 dragons' bloodline had devoured the intent runes of the men of sacrifice. There are wind intent, fire intent, and water intent. Can the 9 dragons' bloodline devour intent runes and refine them for its own use? At the thought of this, Lu Ming's heart began to pound. If that was the case, it would be too heaven-defying. Intent runes were different from blood essence, vital essence, and other energies. Intent runes were comprehended. How could they be devoured and refined? Lu Ming found it hard to believe. Let's try and find out. Chapter 903. Half an hour later, Lu Ming opened his eyes. In addition to shock, there was also ecstasy in his eyes. He could really refine them. Lu Ming discovered that in addition to blood essence, blood, true essence, and other energies, he could also refine concept runes. Although the concept rune could not be completely refined and a large part of it would be lost in the refining process, there was still a part of it that was integrated into Lu Ming's own concept rune. In an instant, Lu Ming's comprehension of the concept improved by leaps and bounds and increased rapidly. This feeling was incomparably mysterious and difficult to describe in words. After refining the concept runes of more than 10 men of sacrifice, his wind and fire concepts improved by a large margin. And because he did not comprehend the concept of water, Lu Ming let those water concept runes dissipate. Lu Ming's mood at this moment could be described as ecstasy. If he could even devour concept runes and use them for himself, then wouldn't his cultivation advance by leaps and bounds in the future? Ha ha ha. Lu Ming could not help but laugh out loud. So what if he comprehended many concepts? The more he comprehended, the faster his cultivation would be. Lu Ming's heart began to become active. He pondered if he should comprehend other concepts. Otherwise, it would be a waste to devour them. Forget it, I'll look at them later. It's not wise to comprehend new concepts now. It will hinder my cultivation speed. I'll consider it after the battle of Providence is over. Lu Ming took a deep breath and calmed himself down. Now was not the time to be impulsive. There were great opportunities in the battle of Providence. Moreover, in such an environment, others' cultivation would definitely advance by leaps and bounds. If he comprehended new concepts now, even with the 9 dragons bloodline, his cultivation would not advance for a period of time. In the Battle of Providence, it was unwise to fall one step behind and keep falling behind. What is this place? Immediately, Lu Ming observed. He flew up into the air and looked around. All around him were endless mountains and ancient trees that towered into the sky. Lu Ming randomly chose a direction and flew forward. There are quite a lot of spiritual herbs here. After flying for a while, Lu Ming discovered a few stalks of spirit herbs growing on a cliff. There were a total of 3 stalks. They were the 6th grade high-grade spirit herb, the origin returning grass. Lu Ming flew down and with a wave of his hand, his true essence swept out and plucked the 3 stalks of origin returning grass. As soon as Lu Ming plucked the origin returning grass, a sudden glow appeared in front of him, followed by the appearance of a jade book. This jade book only had 2 pages, and there was a line of words on the cover. Luck points, 3, this is the Book of Fate. Lu Ming's eyes moved as he secretly marveled. It was said that the War of Providence was extremely mysterious. The first year was not only the time to search for opportunities, raise one's cultivation level, but also the time to accumulate providence. Yes, accumulating providence. During the Battle of Providence, if one could find any relics, treasures, or inheritances of experts, not only would they obtain great opportunities, but they would also gain providence. During this period, even if one found a stalk of spiritual herb or a piece of precious material, they would accumulate providence. Some people were lucky and might casually find a treasure, obtain an inheritance, and obtain a huge amount of providence. Every person who participated in the Battle of Karmic Luck would condense a book of karmic luck the first time they obtained karmic luck. The amount of karmic luck you accumulated, whether it was strong or weak, would all be converted into karmic luck and displayed on the book of karmic luck. It was said that providence was not only of great use to oneself. In the end, if one obtained enough providence, it would even be of great use to one's family and friends. It could make one's family and friends' providence stronger and even their talent stronger. It would also be of great use to one's sect. It was said that the one who would benefit the most was most likely the sect master of one's sect. This was also why the various major factions attached great importance to the War of Providence and did not hesitate to open up various cultivations sacred grounds to nurture young geniuses. Providence was a mysterious thing, but it was extremely mysterious. In short, it had endless uses, and the more the better. Some people guessed that it might be a type of energy, an extremely mysterious energy. Moreover, if one hunted and killed the accumulated providence of others, one could also take a portion of their providence. Therefore, in the end of the War of Providence, there was bound to be a bloody massacre to seize the providence of others. Boom! Suddenly, there was a rumble in front of him, as if someone was fighting. Lu Ming restrained his aura and rushed over. When he was not far away, Lu Ming rushed up a big tree and hid among the branches, looking ahead. This is, at a glance, Lu Ming's pupils suddenly constricted in shock. In front of him, there were two tall and burly creatures covered in black scales besieging a human genius. The two creatures had two horns on their heads and an eye between their eyebrows. Lu Ming was too familiar with such creatures. The three-eyed divine tribe. This was actually the three-eyed divine tribe that Lu Ming had encountered on a small island in the heaven realm. How was this possible? Why would he encounter the three-eyed divine tribe here? Could this be the heaven realm? Lu Ming was greatly shocked. The two three-eyed divine tribe members were both at the 7th level of the spiritual sea realm, while the human genius was at the 5th level of the spiritual sea realm. He was no match for the two three-eyed divine tribe members at all. He roared repeatedly, but it was useless as he was completely suppressed. Swoosh! The third eyes of the two three-eyed divine tribe members shot out two beams of light. One was a beam of light flickering with lightning, and the other was a beam of light flickering with fire. The two beams of light pierced through the void and killed the genius. Lu Ming did not appear to save him. Unless it was someone from the Talisman Puppet sect, otherwise, two of the other three forces wanted to kill Lu Ming, and the other was the Heavenly Corpse sect, which also had a great grudge with Lu Ming. Why would Lu Ming make a move? These humans have appeared again. They will appear once every 20 years. Let's go back and report to the leader. One of the three-eyed divine tribe members said. Then, the two three-eyed divine tribe members soared into the sky and left. Lu Ming flew out, and the power of devouring erupted, devouring the energy of the human genius. From their tone, the three-eyed divine tribe members should be here permanently and should be very familiar with this area. If I want to find treasures, cave dwellings of experts, and so on, I don't know how long it would take to wander around blindly. Obtaining information from these three-eyed divine tribe members is the best choice. With this thought, Lu Ming's figure moved, and he chased in the direction of the two three-eyed divine tribe members. After more than 10,000 miles, Lu Ming saw the other three-eyed divine tribe members in a mountain forest. There were a total of 11 people, and it was obviously a small team. The two three-eyed divine tribe members from before were reporting something to an especially burly three-eyed divine tribe member. The strongest should be at the 9th level of the spiritual sea realm. Kill! A cold light flashed in Lu Ming's eyes, and he rushed out. Xiao! Xiao! With a wave of his hand, more than 10 spears instantly condensed and pierced towards the three-eyed divine tribe members. Pooh! Pooh! Immediately, 7 of the weaker three-eyed divine tribe members were pierced by Lu Ming's spears, and they were killed on the spot. Chapter 904. Human, you deserve to die. A three-eyed god race member in the 9th layer of the spiritual sea realm roared. A golden light beam shot out from his eyes like a sharp sword, piercing towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming struck out with a palm and scattered the light beam. Such powerful power! Lu Ming's eyes moved. He discovered that these three-eyed god race members were very strong, generally stronger than humans, and even comparable to some human geniuses. Lu Ming didn't believe that the other party was a genius from the three-eyed god race. It seemed that he was just an ordinary three-eyed god race member. Pang! Lu Ming shattered the light beam and stepped forward. Circulating the suppressing hell heaven skill, he struck a palm on the three-eyed god race member. A large part of the three-eyed god race member's body suddenly caved in. His burly body was sent flying for thousands of meters, without any signs of life. Retreat! The remaining three-eyed god race members saw that Lu Ming killed their leader in one move and immediately knew that they met an opponent that they couldn't defeat. They roared and fled separately. Want to leave? Stay. 9 Dragons Heaven's stomping step, he instantly caught up with another expert in the 9th layer of the spiritual sea realm and struck out with a palm. This time, Lu Ming didn't kill. He only heavily injured the three-eyed god race member and then chased after the other two. Cultivating in the ferocious beast secret realm for several months, Lu Ming had improved in all aspects. The 9 Dragons Heaven's stomping step was cultivated to the 6th step, and its power was comparable to the peak level of high-grade demigod martial arts. His speed was extremely fast. Not long after, the remaining 2 three-eyed god race members were injured by him. He threw the 3 three-eyed god race members together. Now, what do I ask you? What do you answer? Do you understand? Lu Ming glanced at the 3 three-eyed god race members. Don't even think about it, human. Kill me if you want, don't expect me to say a word. One of the three-eyed god race members roared. Is that so? Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. The 9 Dragons bloodline appeared and opened its mouth. Devouring power erupted and enveloped the three-eyed god race member. The three-eyed god race member immediately wailed, and then his body rapidly shriveled up, turning into a dried corpse. All the essence was devoured by the 9 Dragons bloodline. Seeing this terrifying scene, the remaining 2 members of the three-eyed god tribe trembled in fear. Their eyes were filled with fear. What about you guys? Lu Ming looked at the remaining 2 members of the three-eyed divine race. Tell me, I'll tell you. I'll tell you anything you want to know. One of them shouted. Me too. The other one quickly nodded. All right, let me ask you, where is this place? Are we in the heaven realm? Lu Ming asked. Heaven realm? I don't know. I was born here. According to the clan's legends, we've been living here for countless years. One of the three-eyed divine race said. Don't know. Lu Ming frowned. I once saw it in an ancient book of my clan. According to the ancient book, our ancestors didn't seem to have lived here in the beginning. They seem to have been captured by someone and brought to this place. Later on, they couldn't leave, so they continued to live here and reproduce our clan. The other member of the three-eyed divine race was startled when he saw Lu Ming frown. He answered in a trembling voice. Your ancestors were captured and brought here. Lu Ming was even more puzzled. That's right. Moreover, we don't know when it started, but every 20 years, young humans would descend and hunt our clan. After a period of time, they would all disappear again. One of the three-eyed divine race said. Every 20 years, there will be young people from the human clan descending. That should be the Battle of Providence. However, the location of the Battle of Providence is different every time. Those who come and go should be from other regions or even other continents overseas. Lu Ming guessed. Are there any strange places around here? Lu Ming asked. Yes, there are some strange places. Some places are very dangerous and our clan doesn't dare to enter. Some places, as soon as we enter, will be killed. The three-eyed divine race answered. Do you have a map? Lu Ming asked. Yes, there's a map in our captain's storage ring. Now that we've said what we need to say, can you let us go? One of the three-eyed divine race members asked cautiously. Let you go? When did I say that I would let you go? Lu Ming sneered. With a wave of his hand, 2 spear lights flew out and killed 2 of the three-eyed divine race members. Then, he controlled the 9 dragons' bloodline to devour the blood essence energy of the three-eyed divine race members. Then, 11 storage rings appeared in his hand. At this time, Lu Ming's heart moved. A jade book flew out from between his eyebrows. It was the Book of Providence. Some words appeared on it. Killing a three-eyed divine race member gave him 313 luck points. Lu Ming's total luck points had become 316 points. Killing the three-eyed divine tribe actually gives me luck points, and so many of them at that. Lu Ming was shocked. He only got 2 or 3 luck points after obtaining 3 6th-grade spirit herbs. He didn't expect that killing 11 three-eyed divine race members would give him so many luck points. Then, his figure flashed and he left this place. Tens of thousands of miles away, Lu Ming sat cross-legged, refining the blood essence and energy. The three-eyed divine race members also cultivated the concept of heaven and earth. The light beam shot out from their third eye was condensed from the concept of heaven and earth and a different kind of energy from true yuan. It was extremely powerful. Among the 11 members of the three-eyed divine clan, there were those who had comprehended the thunder concept and fire concept. A part of the rune of the heaven and earth concept was integrated into Lu Ming's rune. Lu Ming's understanding of the thunder concept and fire concept increased again. Thunder and fire concepts have already reached the limit of 2nd level perfection. I'm only 1 step away from 3rd level. Wind concept is about the same. As for earth concept, I haven't reached the peak of 2nd level completion. My current cultivation can only reach the peak of the 8th level of the spiritual sea realm. Lu Ming thought. His current cultivation was at the peak of the 8th level of the spiritual sea realm. After refining, Lu Ming took out the storage rings he got from the three-eyed divine race members and looked at them one by one. There were some miscellaneous things inside. Lu Ming put them all together. In one of the storage rings, Lu Ming found a map and opened it. There are several strange places within 1,000,000 miles. I should take a look at these places. First, I'll go to the Demon Tree Canyon that's closest to here. Lu Ming looked for a while and made a decision. The Demon Tree Canyon was tens of thousands of miles away. It was the closest. Keeping the map, Lu Ming rose into the air and flew towards the Demon Tree Canyon. Soon, Lu Ming arrived at the Demon Tree Canyon. In front of him, there was a huge canyon filled with fog. It was hazy. Lu Ming's moving figure suddenly stopped. At the entrance of the Demon Tree Canyon, he saw a group of figures. They were all young people from the outside world. There were people from the Heavenly Corpse sect, the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace, and even the demon race from the Sky Demon Valley. The 3 parties stopped at the entrance of the canyon and seemed to be looking inside. Hearing the movement, everyone turned around and looked at Lu Ming. Lu Ming. It's you. A cold shout sounded. Di Feng. Chapter 905. Lu Ming saw Di Feng in the crowd. Di Feng, ranked 101st on the list of top 1,000 talents, was the descendant of Martial Emperor Di. Seeing Lu Ming, Di Feng's eyes flashed with a murderous intent. At the same time, the demons from Sky Monster Valley also looked at him coldly. Lu Ming, Wang Yan said that he wanted to keep you outside, but he didn't succeed. Since you're wanted by Martial Emperor Ancestor, I can cripple you and bring you to martial emperor ancestor. It'll be a great achievement. Di Feng's body emitted a powerful qi. His body emitted a sharp sword qi. I've said it before. If you want to kill me, you'll have to be prepared to be killed by me. Since you're the descendant of De, I'll collect some interest first. Lu Ming's eyes darkened. Kill. Di Feng waved his hand and 7 figures pounced out from behind him. The 7 figures were all men of sacrifice in black robes and carrying long swords on their backs. In fact, there were about 20 people from Emperor Heaven Divine Palace, but there were more than a dozen men of sacrifice. The rest were young geniuses. Obviously, Di Feng was the leader. The 7 men of sacrifice were all at the peak of the 9th level of the spiritual sea realm. The 7 of them worked together to form a perfect battle formation and attacked Lu Ming. Swoosh! Swoosh! The sword qi and sword radiance were like a net, enveloping Lu Ming. Boom! Lu Ming struck out with his palm, shattering the sword radiance. The powerful palm force made the 7 men of sacrifice vomit blood and fly backward. Devour! Lu Ming clenched his left hand and a terrifying devouring power burst out. The 7 men of sacrifice could not control their bodies and were devoured by Lu Ming. Their blood essence, genuine origin, and intent runes were all devoured by Lu Ming. In the blink of an eye, they were turned into 7 dried corpses. Everyone's eyes were filled with astonishment. Devouring people directly into dried corpses. This scene was too strange. What a domineering demonic skill. A genius from Heavenly Corpse sect shouted in horror. The cultivation methods practiced by the Heavenly Corpse sect were all evil and powerful. Some cultivation methods could also turn people into mummies, but the speed was definitely not this fast. It was too overbearing. Evil cultivators should be beheaded. Di Feng said coldly, his killing intent sharp. Clang! Di Feng stepped out as a terrifying sword might exploded forth. A beam of golden sword qi violently slashed towards Lu Ming. 4 kinds of intense surrounded him. Lu Ming struck with his palm, colliding with the golden sword gleam. Boom! An earth-shattering roar resounded, and the golden sword light dissipated. Lu Ming, you have some skills, but you're still too inexperienced to fight me. Di Feng roared as a golden battle sword appeared above his head. This battle sword had a golden dragon coiling around its hilt. Boundless sword light emitted from it. There were 4 golden chakras floating around the sword. 4th level divine level bloodline. Monarch sword, the unique bloodline of the Di clan. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. According to legend, the bloodline of the Di clan, led by martial emperor De, was the monarch sword. Of course, the same bloodline had different levels. Some had 1st level divine level bloodline, while others had 2nd level divine level bloodline. The power was also different. Today, I'll kill you. Di Feng's cold voice resounded. His body turned into light and merged with the monarch sword. Instantly, sword qi soared into the sky. With a move of the monarch sword, the wind and clouds were split in half. The terrifying battle sword slashed towards Lu Ming's head, wanting to split him in half. Di Feng was indeed very strong. His cultivation was at the peak of the 9th level of the spiritual sea realm, and the cultivation method he practiced was undoubtedly a divine level technique. With the addition of the 4th level divine level bloodline, the power he could unleash was extremely terrifying. He could definitely fight against an expert at the 1st level of the spirit embryo realm. However, Lu Ming's current battle power was far beyond the 1st level of the spirit embryo realm. Boom! Lu Ming directly unleashed a beam of dragon power, and scales appeared. He circulated the suppressing hell heaven skill and punched towards the battle sword. Clang! A melodious sound rang out. The monarch sword vibrated continuously and was sent flying. The others were shocked. Di Feng, ranked 101st on the list of top 1,000 talents, was sent flying by Lu Ming's punch. How could Lu Ming's battle power be so terrifying? Could it be that his strength had already surpassed Di Feng's? Kill! Lu Ming strode forward, clenching his fist and punching towards the monarch sword again. Sword of execution. Di Feng's angry roar came from the monarch's sword. The sword power was vast, and the murderous intent was fierce as it rushed towards Lu Ming. Clang! The sword and fist collided, and the monarch's sword vibrated even more violently. Clang! Clang! Lu Ming punched again. The monarch's sword vibrated continuously, and the sword power on the sword weakened continuously. Bang! Finally, the monarch's sword exploded, revealing Di Feng's figure. At this moment, his face was full of fear and disbelief. Lu Ming's battle power had actually surpassed his in all aspects. How could this be? He simply could not accept it. Back at the exchange meet in Nine Dragons City, although Lu Ming was strong, Di Feng was 100% confident that he could kill Lu Ming. During this period, his cultivation had improved again, but he was no match for Lu Ming and was defeated by Lu Ming. How could Lu Ming's cultivation speed be so terrifying? So what if your cultivation is higher than mine? You're too weak to withstand a single blow. Lu Ming's eyes were cold as he strode towards Di Feng. Swoosh! Without hesitation, Di Feng turned into a ray of sword light and flew towards another direction, frantically escaping. Although there were many people at the mouth of the canyon, Di Feng knew that no one could stop Lu Ming. If he stayed, he would definitely be killed by Lu Ming. You want to leave? Have you asked for my permission? Lu Ming stepped out and chased after Di Feng like a ray of light. Di Feng was terrified. He took out a LV7 spiritual weapon, but Lu Ming broke it into two with a punch. Boom! Lu Ming's punch pierced through the void, causing Di Feng to spit out a mouthful of blood. Di Feng was even more terrified as he ran for his life. At this moment, a ray of purple light was rushing towards him. Wang Yan. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. That figure was actually Wang Yan. Wang Yan, save me! Seeing Wang Yan, Di Feng was overjoyed as he rushed towards Wang Yan. Lu Ming, you're actually not dead. Wang Yan was shocked when he saw Lu Ming. Previously, when he was crossing the abyss, he had given Lu Ming a fatal blow and even ordered his men of sacrifice to snipe Lu Ming. In that situation, the round platform had already collapsed. He concluded that Lu Ming had fallen into the abyss and died. Now that he saw Lu Ming, he was naturally shocked. Whoosh! Wang Yan was like a ray of purple light as he instantly crossed the void and appeared in front of Di Feng. Lu Ming, you're really lucky. Alright, since that's the case, let me finish you off personally. Purple flames danced on Wang Yan's body. With Wang Yan as the center, it formed a black hole. In that place, other than him, everything else seemed to have been burned. I've said that I'll definitely kill you. Now that I've met you, it's just nice. Lu Ming did not stop as he pounced towards Wang Yan. Compared to Di Feng, he wanted to kill Wang Yan more. Chapter 906. The two fists collided, causing the air to tremble. Wang Yan's body trembled and he took 3 steps back. Lu Ming also took 2 steps back. However, Lu Ming's arm was covered in a layer of purple flames. The terrifying flames were terrifyingly hot and seemed to want to burn Lu Ming's arm to ashes. Even with the protection of the scales, Lu Ming felt a piercing pain. He activated the true dragon of combat arts and 4 different wills exploded and gathered on his arm. There was a sizzling sound on his arm before the flames were extinguished. What a terrifying flame! Die! Wang Yan roared and the flames on his body became even more terrifying. It was as if he had turned into a flaming man. Every strand of his hair was covered in flames. There was a dragon roar and Lu Ming unleashed 2 waves of dragon power consecutively. Wang Yan was very strong. His cultivation had reached the spiritual sea realm and was half a step into the spiritual embryo realm. His wills had also reached level 3. At the same time, his bloodline was at level 5 of the divine level. The bloodline martial techniques he had learned from his bloodline were also upper-class demigod martial techniques. It could be said that he was not much weaker than Lu Ming in terms of wills and martial techniques. As for his cultivation, it had increased by a large margin. Lu Ming's biggest advantage was his rich vital essence and dragon energy. After releasing 3 waves of dragon energy, Lu Ming was extremely powerful and his strength seemed to be endless. Boom! Boom! He and Wang Yan engaged in a fierce battle. There were continuous explosions and a terrifying storm of energy swept in all directions. For a moment, the 2 of them were evenly matched. In the distance, Di Feng was extremely shocked. When Lu Ming fought with him, it was obvious that he did not use his full strength. However, Lu Ming was able to fight with Wang Yan. Wang Yan was ranked 98 on the list of top 1,000 talents. Although he was only a few ranks higher than Di Feng, his strength was on a completely different level. Wang Yan was several times stronger than Di Feng and could easily kill him. In the blink of an eye, the 2 of them had exchanged dozens of blows. Wang Yan was extremely shocked. Every punch of Lu Ming's seemed to contain infinite power. His body trembled and his vital energy and blood surged. If not for the fact that his flames were so terrifying that Lu Ming had to divert a portion of his energy to fend off his flames, he might not have been his match. Whoosh! A purple flame appeared above Wang Yan's head. It was similar to Wang Haoxian's pure purple heavenly fire, but it was many times more terrifying than Wang Haoxian's. 5 dazzling golden chakras flickered as Wang Yan performed bloodline fusion. Purple flames turned into a purple flame godly eagle that pounced at Lu Ming. Roar! With a dragon's roar, the 9 dragons' blood emerged. Lu Ming's body moved and merged with the 9 dragons' blood. Suddenly, he transformed into 9 dragons. With a long roar, he pounced on the purple divine eagle. He opened his mouth and roared. His devouring power burst out and enveloped the purple godly eagle. His huge dragon claws grabbed at the purple godly eagle. The purple godly eagle flapped its wings, and endless flames burst out. At the same time, it reached out its claws to grab the 9 dragons. Suddenly, a dragon and an eagle began to fight in the sky. In the distance, Di Feng was shocked to the extreme. How is this possible? Di Feng roared. During the battle in the 9 Dragon City, Lu Ming had released the 9 dragons' blood. At that time, the 9 dragons' blood was still in the form of a 5-clawed true dragon. Di Feng had seen it from afar. At that time, he was extremely shocked because he had also seen Lu Ming release the suppressing prison steel's bloodline. Lu Ming actually had 2 types of divine-grade bloodlines. Later on, he even saw with his own eyes that Lu Ming's bloodline in the form of a true dragon self-destructed his chakra. But now, not only had Huang Xiaolong's bloodline recovered, it had even reached the 4th level of the divine grade, and transformed into the legendary 9 dragons. All of this had shattered his understanding. Could it be that the martial emperor ancestor wants his bloodline? Di Feng's heart skipped a beat. Lu Ming had once shouted loudly in 9 Dragon City, saying that De, a martial emperor, merely wanted his bloodline. Could it be this kind of bloodline? Di Feng's heart was in turmoil. The battle between Lu Ming and Wang Yan was still evenly matched. Now that Lu Ming and martial emperor De were in the open, there was no need to hide the 9 dragons' bloodline. He should use it when he needed to. Hee, it's so lively here. At this moment, a cold voice came from afar. A young man carrying an ancient coffin walked over. He was an expert from the Heavenly Corpse sect. Shi Shao. Di Feng's eyes narrowed when he saw this person. Shi Shao was ranked 96th on the list of top 1,000 talents, 2 ranks higher than Wang Yan. Shi Shao, you've come at the right time. Let's work together to kill this person. Wang Yan's voice came from the Purple Eagle. Wang Yan, work together with you? Why? Why should I work together with you? Shi Shao smiled coldly and stood to the side, watching with her arms crossed. Boom! After the 9 dragons and the eagle attacked, they retreated and stopped fighting. They looked at Shi Shao with fear. Shi Shao obviously wanted to watch from the sidelines and reap the benefits. Almost at the same time, Lu Ming and Wang Yan turned back into their human forms and stood with Shi Shao on 3 sides. Hee, why did you stop fighting? Shi Shao licked his lips and looked at them coldly. Lu Ming looked at Shi Shao and frowned. He felt a dangerous aura from Shi Shao. This person might be even more terrifying than Wang Yan. He thought of Shi Mo, who was ranked 102nd on the list of top 1,000 talents. Both of them carried an ancient coffin. Perhaps, they practiced the same cultivation technique. Shi Shao, do you want us to both be injured and then be killed by you? Wang Yan snorted. He was also wary of Shi Shao. As such, all 3 sides were wary of each other and did not attack. Shi Shao, Emperor Sky Divine Palace and Heavenly Corpse sect have always been enemies. Why don't we work together to kill Wang Yan? What do you think? Lu Ming suddenly said. Shi Zhao's eyes flashed and he looked at Wang Yan coldly. Obviously, he was tempted. Wang Yan was shocked. He could not take down Lu Ming alone. If Shi Shao joined forces, he would be in danger. Shi Shao, Lu Ming is someone that Martial Emperor De wants to take down. If you work together with him, I'm afraid he will think that you are his accomplices. Wang Yan hurriedly said. Shi Zhao's eyes immediately showed a trace of fear. Although Heavenly Corpse sect and Emperor Sky Divine Palace were enemies, Heavenly Corpse sect's Corpse Emperor would naturally deal with Martial Emperor De. However, if Martial Emperor De really targeted him, even the Corpse Emperor would not be able to protect him. Why would I work with him? You must be joking. Shi Shao laughed and said, how about this? The demonic tree canyon is just ahead. Why don't we enter the canyon first? If there are treasures inside, we'll fight for them. Okay. Lu Ming nodded. It was not a good idea to continue the stalemate. If 1 or 2 geniuses from the top 100 of the list of top 1,000 talents came, Lu Ming would be at a disadvantage. As for Wang Yan, it would not be too late to kill him later. I have no objections. Wang Yan said. Then, the 3 of them and Di Feng returned to the canyon. However, they kept a distance from each other and were wary of each other. What's so dangerous about this canyon? Why don't you go in? You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.